Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is a story about what if Godlike Naruto was summoned in Hogwarts. Before I start, please support for more amazing content, and do consider subscribing to my channel and share this video with your friends. This is written by fatalforce and link in description and support writer. Let's start the video. Chapter 1. The Merlin. It was only meant to be an easy jump, but not like this. He couldn't believe his technique could end like this. He was certain that he did it perfectly, since he had done this for nearly all his life. So, how is it possible that it could go wrong? Not only he had missed the jump, but he had also ended up in an entirely different place. He could only see the endless sea of whiteness, no living thing, no dirt, no water, and not even air. Nothing's the Reno one. He was alone in the white plain, and he didn't even know for how long he had stayed there alone, thinking how it would be possible for him to end up here in nothingness. He can only think of one place where it could exist: either he was dead, or he was dreaming. Another possible outcome would be also possible: perhaps he had ended up in a limbo. Yes, it was very a peculiar sensation for Namake's Naruto, aka the god of Flash, destroyer of the mighty Uchiha Madara, destroyer of the mighty beast known as Jubi, ten-tailed beast, who terrorized the shinobi world. Jubi almost succeeded in destroying the whole shinobi world. But he sealed it into his own body. Because of that he was hailed as hero, and he was given title as the strongest ninja of the world and a god. Naruto couldn't believe that his space-time technique could go wrong. It was an accident. He was going to use his space-time jutsu to teleport to his created new dimension, but halfway through it, he was pulled in a different direction and ended up in this new plane of nothingness. On top of that, he couldn't tell how he ended up here and where it was. It was very frustrating, and he couldn't figure out what had gone wrong with his technique. He was a master user of Jikuken ninjutsu, space-time technique, after all. Even Rakuta Sannin didn't have the mastery over space-time techniques. He started thinking of his girlfriend Uchiha Hinako, who almost died in his final battle. Had he not brought her soul back with his Geto Rina Tensei no Jutsu, Outer Path Samsara technique, she would have been forever lost from his grasp. His heart had almost stopped when he saw her die in front of him with a wound inflicted by that beast. As the blonde stayed there contemplating his situation, there was another occupant in the plane who was watching the blonde's every movement very carefully. He knew the blonde couldn't sense him because he had no life energy in him. He stayed there for some time, and seeing that the blonde was studying the place very carefully, he decided to grace his presence to the blonde. "Hello there," the man said from behind Naruto. Naruto suddenly leaped onto his feet and turned around facing him with a very dangerous aura and disappeared into thin air and reappeared behind him holding a kunai in his throat. The man's eyes widened seeing what the blonde did in just a fraction of a second. He looked down in the cold steel and slowly said, "Calm down, young fellow. I'm not an enemy." Naruto pressed harder in his kunai and asked in a cold voice, "Who are you? What is this place?" The man sighed and said, "I will explain everything to you if you remove your weapon, young man." Naruto, seeing that the man was doing nothing, lowered his weapon and came face to face with the man. What he saw surprised him greatly. Standing in front of him was a strange old man with a long beard falling in the ground, dressing like some kind of priest. The man's eyes had a strange twinkle, and he was holding some kind of big staff. The old man took a good look towards Naruto and sitting down on the floor and said, smiling, "Now that it's settled, let's introduce ourselves first. You should go first, seeing that I'm an old man. Tell me about you." Naruto watched him for a minute, then sighed. He also sat down on his knees and said, "Let's see, me name is Namake's Naruto or Uzumaki Naruto, whichever you prefer. I'm from Kanehigakure no Sato, Hidden Leaf Village, and people like to refer me with some other stupid titles." He chuckled. "My dream has been already realized, which is to create peace and tranquility in the ninja world. I don't want to go into details about me." Naruto grimaced, thinking if he had given up too much information to the strange old man. But he composed himself and thought, "Oh well, nothing can be done about it now." He looked at the old man and demanded, "Now it's your turn and you can start." Looking around, he said, "With this place." The old man thought, raising an eyebrow, "Oh, he is some kind of a warrior, I suppose. He is likely to be a very private person." He smiled to himself and said, "You are pretty young to even think about creating peace, but never mind. It's not my place to question others' dreams. Let's see, where should I start?" He stroked his chin thinking, and his eyes tinkled again. Then he said, "Let's answer your question, shall we? Yes, you are in a place between life and death. We can say that this is the place where souls come when their bodies die and stay here for judgment. Then they pass on." Naruto's eyes widened. "What? Are you saying that I'm dead?" he asked, looking around. The old man brushed his hands and said, "Don't panic, young man, you are not dead. You are merely here because I'm ordered to summon you here." Naruto looked at him and asked confusedly, "Huh? You summoned me here? And what are you talking about? Who ordered you to summon me?" The bearded man smirked and said, "One question at a time, Naruto. To answer your question, yes, I was ordered to summon you. Who, by the way?" He questioned himself as if he didn't know. Then he answered, "By the real gods, of course. But I may be mistaken about that. Didn't know who will be end up summoned." He looked at Naruto and said, "That's why I asked for introduction, you know. I was ordered that I must summon the strongest warrior of the universe who can help my world. Even if he is from a different parallel world, it would suffice, so I was told." A stunned silence passed through the duo. Then Naruto slowly said, "Well, you got one part right. I'm regarded as a god in my place because of my eyes, but I didn't know that I have become the strongest warrior of the universe. This is overwhelming." "Then I was right to summon you after all," the old man exclaimed merrily. "But the question is why you are summoned? Isn't it the question lingering in your mind?" Naruto nodded. The old man's eyes again twinkled and said, "To answer your question, we must go to history by means first introducing myself to you. Well, let's say in my world I'm known as what called the Merlin, and I was the one who first discovered the world of modern magic. Do you know what magic is?" Naruto shook his head, indicating a no. Merlin just nodded in understanding and said, "Magic is a form of energy which we magical folks use to do many things. We use magic to do our regular work, to make our lives better. There are many magic spells and tricks that are used today." Naruto listened attentively and slowly said, "Interesting, so magic is like chakra for using various techniques." He nodded. Merlin looked confused. "I don't know what this chakra is, but magic could be like that if you think so. The world I am talking about is the planet Earth, located in the solar system, in the Milky Way galaxy. Perhaps you are confused, eh?" he asked. Naruto nodded. "I don't know any planet like that actually. Where I live, people don't even want to learn such things." Merlin shook his head sideways and whispered, "Such primitive thoughts." He thought, "What am I talking about? Wizarding world is even more primitive, if I recall." He paused and said, "Octo, simply things. I shall not mention about the planet part. I only mention about the world's name if it's alright to you." Naruto nodded and said, "It will be much helpful." Merlin nodded and gave a V sign with his fingers indicating number 2. There are two types of people lives in Earth. One is magical and other is non-magical. Magical folks are known as wizards and witches, and non-magical people are known as muggles. It must be almost 2,000 years since I left the living world." Naruto was surprised. "So you are telling me that I'm talking to a dead man?" "Well, not dead precisely. I went to Avalon, and have stayed for nearly 2,000 years. You see, the magic I preached was meant to bring peace and prosperity to the world. But as time went by, the world split apart in magical and non-magical people, and the world is now sleeping in darkness. You see, magic can also be used to cause harm, and as the magical people went deeper into the art, they started to become arrogant." Merlin paused. He again started clearing his head. As time went by, they started believing themselves as superior beings. It was apparent that even to do small thing like lifting a heavy log or even as to cut vegetables, they used magic. The non-magical people didn't like that, and it was at the time when muggles were becoming religious. The church decided that any unnatural activities done by any people are the spawn of Satan, also known as son of Lucifer, creator of demons. So magic practitioners were hailed evil, and the process known as the witch hunt began. By the time, nearly 20 to 40,000 wizards and witches were burned alive in the process. He sighed sorrowfully. Even though he sympathized with muggles, he also had a small amount of grudge against them. He said somewhat forcefully, "And many of them were pure blood. So the magical people started alienating themselves from muggles, and after a few hundred years some purebloods who held grudges against muggles declared war against them, and the era of Dark Lords began. They started believing that other people and animals don't deserve to live, and wizards should not meddle with the muggles, and the few who did without consenting were hailed as muggle lovers or blood traitors. They even went on to prevent education to children born in muggle parent. Though in recent studies made in the Department of Mysteries concludes that there is no such thing as muggle-born children. There will have been a witch or wizard somewhere in the family tree." Naruto nodded in understanding, since a similar situation was also present in the ninja world once. Like Uchiha clan's superior arrogance, Hyuga clan's caged bird seal, etc., etc. He could relate to that. Merlin shook his head and said, "Sorry, I got carried away. The question is, why did I summon you, right?" Merlin took a breath and said, "The answer is that we need your help to create peace in the wizarding world. At present, the wizarding world is fighting a war with an evil wizard who wants to control the whole world by terrorizing everyone. But why do we need you? To answer that, let me tell you a little about history." Naruto gestured, telling him to continue. Merlin started, "Nearly 1,000 years ago, 4 powerful wizards and witches established a magical school to give education to the magical children. Children born with magic can't control their prowess, so they must learn how to control it. You see, the 4 wizards and witches were the most gifted in magical abilities after me. They were praised as the best. Merlin smiled fondly, remembering them. He then said their names were Godric Gryffindor, Helga Hufflepuff, Rowena Ravenclaw, and Salazar Slytherin. Godric Gryffindor was a man known as warrior with great courage and bravery. He was the only one who learnt Muggle-style fighting. Helga Hufflepuff was a witch with great nobility. In fact, she was known for her loyalty and friendship. Rowena Ravenclaw was the smartest witch of her time. She was well known of her knowledge over magic, and she was a great strategist. And lastly, and most commonly, Salazar Slytherin was known as a cunning and ambitious man. Merlin again took a breath and said the school they established is known as the Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry, and is one of the best wizarding school in history. They created 4 houses to sort out the students and to include which student possessed capability of which founded the most. The houses were named after their titles as Gryffindor, Hufflepuff, Ravenclaw, and Slytherin. Brave and courageous students were sorted into Gryffindor, loyal and who values and friendship were sorted into Hufflepuff, smart and witty students were sorted into Ravenclaw, and cunning and ambitious students were sorted into Slytherin house. He sighed and then said, then there comes the problem of the today's wizarding world struggle. Nearly 50 years ago, a boy named Tom Marvolo Riddle came to Hogwarts to study magic. He was named after his Muggle father Tom Riddle, and his mother was a witch. Her name was Merope Gaunt, and she was a pure-blood witch but fell in love with the Muggle. So she slipped him with a love potion and became pregnant with his child. He cupped his finger and said, but when the Muggle realized that she had used him, he left her behind. The woman then gave birth to a child and gave him his father's name. The witch died after that. So, Tom Marvolo Riddle grew up in a Muggle orphanage without love and comfort of his parents. He was constantly bullied and picked on by other older children of the orphanage. So he grew bitter towards anyone he met. He even took 2 bullies to a cave outside London and badly tortured them. Since he was the son of a witch, so he definitely had magical abilities. So when he started showing accidental magic, other people started to bully him as they thought of him as a freak. Naruto listened attentively as the old man described some of the things he had not understood but thought he will ask after the old man's explanation. Merlin smiled slightly and took a deep breath and said, you see, that boy had special abilities. He was able to talk with snakes. People who can talk to snakes are known as Parselmouth, and Salazar Slytherin was also a Parselmouth. Naruto interrupted, are you telling me that he was a descendant of Salazar Slytherin? Merlin just smirked, relax young man. I was going into that. Yes, I think the Gaunt family had inherited most of Slytherin's blood. You see, most pure-blood families intermarry among themselves and all of them are related to one another. So I can say that all pure-blood families have inherited some of all the past leaders like Godric Gryffindor, Helga Hufflepuff, Salazar Slytherin, or even me. But no pure-blood family have inherited Rowena Ravenclaw's blood. Her daughter hasn't got to marry before she died at the age of 16. So, definitely Tom Marvolo Riddle was a descendant of Slytherin. But I'm sidetracking from my story. So back to the story? Naruto nodded, alright. So, when the child came of age, means 11 years old, eligible for attending Hogwarts, he was invited by the current headmaster himself. Tom Riddle was a very sharp student and cunning. He was also very smart. He quickly became one of the brightest students of Hogwarts. But his heart had darkened so much from his childhood that he started practicing darkest of arts in the known history. He hated his father for abandoning his mother, and eventually that hatred turned to all Muggles. He wanted to wipe out all Muggles from the world. So when he gained knowledge that he was a descendant of Salazar, he claimed himself as the heir of Slytherin since he can talk Parseltongue. Merlin looked at Naruto as the young man listened to his story. He saw in his eyes confusion. He thought, I think the Potter family may also be a descendant of Salazar. The Gaunt and Potters are both from the line of Peveril after all. Naruto waved his hands in front of the old man. Hello old man, you still there? Merlin, realizing that he became a bit lost, said apologetically, Osri dozed off a little bit. Well, where was I? Oh yes, you see, Salazar Slytherin had made a secret chamber inside Hogwarts known as the Chamber of Secrets, and it held a beast or a big snake known as Basilisk. A basilisk is a snake which has the power to kill a person if it looks directly into the beast's eyes. The venom in a basilisk has the power to destroy many dark objects. When Tom Riddle found the chamber, he let loose the beast inside it. The beast killed a Muggle-born girl. The school staff became frightened. But Tom Riddle framed another person and the event of the chamber died out. He even received awards for that, but he was the culprit behind the murder. Naruto gritted his teeth. So, you are telling me that boy Tom Riddle became a very big villain or something? Merlin sighed, oh highs. I'm getting into that. Tom Riddle gained knowledge about a very dark object or magic, whatever you say, known as Horcrux. A Horcrux is an object in which a part of the person's soul can be hidden. A person can tear his soul by murdering innocent people in cold blood. Tom Riddle didn't fear anything. He only feared death. So he sought out methods to become immortal and stumbled upon Horcruxes. Naruto just sighed. What is it with the villains? Why are their goals the same? Immortality? Orochimaru was a prime example of that, and now this Tom Riddle in the wizarding world. He chuckled in irony. Merlin noticed his chuckle and asked, "What did you find so amusing, young man?" The blonde laughed out loud. It's funny that every enemy I have faced till now, they're always obsessed with immortality. Eternal life? What a joke! Merlin also smirked in amusement and responded, "Ahighs. Immortality is some kind of obsession for most people. People always fear the unknown, and for a living man death is a mystery. So people fear death." Alright, back to the story. Well, after graduating from Hogwarts, he took a job in a shop in the Nocturne Alley and after that disappeared from the world. Nobody knew what happened to him. But I can say that he traveled the world and learned many dark arts. He also did rituals to become magically powerful. He even tried to apply for a post in Hogwarts, but he was denied. After a few years, a self-proclaimed Dark Lord rose calling himself Dark Lord Voldemort, but the truth is Tom Marvolo Riddle is Lord Voldemort. I thought as much, Naruto thought darkly. Merlin took his wand and started writing and aired the name Tom Marvolo Riddle and waved his wand, rearranging the letters which read, "I am Lord Voldemort." So Lord Voldemort gained followers from some purebloods who were resentful towards Muggles and Muggleborns, and they called themselves as Death Eaters. They started attacking Muggles, and technically speaking Muggleborn wizards and witches, and people started to fear them. The Dark Lord became famous and wreaked havoc in the wizarding world for some time. In the midst of war, a prophecy was made. The exact wording of the prophecy I will tell you later, but it involves a boy born in the end of July who has power to destroy the Dark Lord. A Death Eater heard the first wording of the prophecy and informed the Dark Lord. Voldemort became furious and vowed to kill the child that will grow up to be his equal. Naruto took a deep breath and realized what was coming. He knew at some point he was going to know why he was summoned. He asked, "So that is why you summoned me? To help the child so that he can defeat Voldemort?" Merlin just smiled and said, "Not quite yet. You see, according to the prophecy, there would have been two boys that are born in July. One is Neville Longbottom and other is Harry James Potter. But Voldemort chose to go after the Potter boy. When the boy's parents realized that Voldemort was targeting their child, they quickly went into hiding. But Voldemort found them, and boy's father James Potter fought bravely to protect the mother and child. But he was no match for the Dark Lord and died. The boy's mother, Lily Evans Potter, who was a very gifted witch, begged him not to kill Harry and instead begged him to kill her. So he killed her too. But her death became a catalyst to the blood protection she had cast on Harry. So when Voldemort turned to 1-year-old baby Harry Potter and cast the killing curse, the curse rebounded on him, ejecting his soul from the body and disappeared. Harry Potter survived the curse with only a lightning bolt-like scar on his forehead. Soon the boy became famous and people referred to him as the boy who lived. Naruto asked slightly, "So is the boy still a child or he has grown up?" Merlin answered, "Yesha has grown up. He will be 15 in coming July. But before we go on, you need to learn about the boy, isn't it? Well, after the event, the headmaster of Hogwarts, Albus Percival Wulfric Brian Dumbledore, placed Harry to his mother's sister's house, who was a Muggle. Maybe she is a squib. Studies have been made to ensure blood relations, and if we were to test it, we could easily find some witches or wizards in the Evans family tree, I suppose, and I wonder if Evans is even the real name of the family," he mused. Naruto chuckled, seeing the old man in thoughts again. He just waved his hand and called, "Hey, old man." Merlin roused from his thoughts and apologized sheepishly. Sorry, where was I? He's due to blood protection of Lily. Dumbledore thought Harry would be protected from the dark forces if he put him to his closest blood relative, since he didn't believe that Voldemort has gone. And it was true, Voldemort didn't die that night because of the Horcruxes. Harry's Aunt Petunia had been married to a man named Vernon Dursley, and has a son named Dudley. They are the type of people who hated anything to do with magic. They thought magic is not natural and only a freak can have that kind of freakiness, as they like to believe. So young Harry grew up hated and isolated from the wizarding world. He was regularly starved and he had to do everything in the house from cooking to cleaning. He was not allowed any friends and his cousin Dudley constantly beat him up for fun. So when he gained invitation to Hogwarts, he was very surprised as he didn't know anything about the world. Life at Hogwarts for Harry Potter was pretty eventful until last year. Merlin paused and gave Naruto time to grasp what he was saying and then continued. Last year, Hogwarts held a tournament named as Triwizard Tournament, and Harry was forced to compete in the tournament. The tournament had 3 tasks required for the competitors, and at the last task Harry was taken away from there to a graveyard. There Harry was forced to watch his fellow competitor die by the hand of a Death Eater. Harry was forced to witness the ritual which brought back the Dark Lord again since Voldemort decided to add Harry's blood in his veins. There Harry and Voldemort dueled, and due to power of the Brother Wands Harry escaped from there barely. So, do you understand now what I'm saying? Naruto was deep in thought and his Rinnegan activated and said, so, I need to help him to defeat Voldemort, right? Merlin nodded and said, yes, that's right. Due to the poor childhood Harry experienced, he grew up weak. He doesn't even know the prophecy. So he really doesn't stand a chance to the most powerful Dark Lord who has experience of 50 years. So do you want to help the boy? Naruto sighed and said, let me think about it, okay? He thought, this is weird. First I ended up in a limbo, then a strange old man telling me to save another world from a very big villain. What a twist of events. Actually, my life has been always like this, saving people even when I time traveled back to the past. What new adventure awaits me for the rest of my life? He sighed again. He told me he summoned me here from the orders from the higher being. So that means I will be stuck here for some time. Not bad, Naruto. Always end up in this kind of situations. Does fate really hate me this much? What would Niji say? He chuckled slightly. This might be not a bad idea either. Seeing new world, hardly anyone got an opportunity to travel parallel dimensions. Okay, sure, why not? He looked at the older man and asked, if I would want to agree to your proposition, how many years would it take for me to return home? Merlin looked thoughtful. I don't know. Until he defeats Voldemort, you will be stuck here for some time, I guess. Unless you have a method to make him strong quickly. Naruto smirked. I have many tricks to train someone quickly, that won't be a problem. Okay, I am in. What will I have to do? Merlin's eyes twinkled and smiled and please, excellent. Okay, since you hardly know anything about the wizarding world, I'll have to teach you. Here, time has no meaning. So you can learn anything you want. Naruto's eyes widened in glee. Really nice. Can I do magic? Merlin smiled and said, I don't know. We need to check that, and if you can do magic then it will be much more exciting. Isn't it? What do you say? The blonde smirked and nodded. He asked, so how will we know that I can do magic? There are many tricks to know if you can do magic or not. But I want to check something. I want to check your core so that I can know if you have the potential to do magic or not. So stay still and I will check, okay? Naruto nodded. Merlin took his long staff, murmured some words which Naruto didn't understand but looked nonetheless. The Merlin waved the staff over Naruto, and immediately a huge shockwave of light erupted, blinding the duo. The light was so bright that even the sun will hide his face in embarrassment. After some time the light subdued, and they focused. Naruto noticed over his head, some letters had started to show. He didn't recognize the letters but thought nothing of it. He was sure Merlin knew what they were. He looked at the old man and his eyes widened seeing his shocked face. He asked immediately, What is it, old man? Merlin couldn't believe his eyes. This is completely out of his mind. He startled from the blonde's question and looked at the young man with overwhelmed eyes. He answered, How is this possible? You boy are amazing. Confused Naruto asked, What? Merlin still in awe and explained, Naruto, in magical world we classify wizards in many terms. You can classify them based on power level or battle prowess or even skill. The most common classification is like this. He waved his staff and wrote in midair like he did to show him the anagram of Voldemort. Naruto watched fascinated. The wordings were like this. 1. Normal witches and wizards. 2. Aura class. 3. Sorcerer. 4. Grand Sorcerer. 5. Warlock. 6. Mage. 7. Archmage. 8. Grand High Archmage. 9. Supreme Archmage. Merlin then looked at Naruto and said, So accordingly, the Supreme Archmage is the most powerful wizard in the world. Still, this classification may not be true in some cases. For example, a wizard who is very proficient in battle magic and martial magic can be classified as a warlock. He may not be very powerful at all. It can also be used as a title to people who got achievements in their lifetime. After all, Albus Dumbledore is the current chief warlock of Wizengamot. The difference in power in the Mage, Archmage, and the Grand High Archmage class is not much. But Supreme Archmage class is the one class which never been achieved by any wizard in existence. There were only 2 wizards in the known history who were titled as Grand High Archmage. Lord Voldemort is a Grand Sorcerer level wizard and so is Albus Dumbledore. Beauty, on the other hand, have power level so great that you have surpassed the limit of even a Supreme Archmage by far greater scale. You have power level many times greater than the level of the highest level, and it is still growing. Looking at the numbers that were still increasing, Merlin couldn't believe his eyes. So gods were right. He really had summoned the strongest warrior of the universe. With that level of power, this young man has the power to create and destroy the whole universe. Naruto stroked his chin in deep thought. He knew that if he really had the potential to use magic, he would be far more powerful than any other wizards. But to learn that he had power level so huge stopped him in tracks. Actually, it was not so surprising for him, since he knew that he really was powerful. In fact, he was the strongest ninja of the elemental nations, and even for God's standards, he was the strongest warrior of the universe. He chuckled and said to the shocked old man, "Well, at least we know that I can do magic. So what do you say, old man?" Merlin shook his head and replied, frowning, "Easy for you to say, but I warn you that since you have power level so huge, you can't use a normal wand and you will have some trouble to cast simpler spells. Only 2 wands will be compatible enough for you. Either the Elder Wand, or known as the Wand of Destiny or Death Stick, and the other is the Wand of Chaos. The Elder Wand is in possession of Albus Dumbledore, and the Chaos Wand has been lost for a millennia." Merlin paused for a minute to think. Naruto also looked thoughtful. This Albus Dumbledore must be a very manipulative old man. He even possesses a wand powerful enough for me. Merlin's eyes lit up, startling Naruto. The old man smiled brightly and said, "Well, Naruto, I think we will make a staff for you. You see, long ago, wizards didn't use wands. They were so powerful that the wands of today would not work for them. So they used staffs instead, since a staff can channel more magic than a wand and it can contain multiple cores. A wand can only hold maximum of 2 cores. But," Merlin sighed and said, "since you will be going to Wizarding World, you need a wand, and so we need to think a way to make a very powerful wand similar to the Death Stick." Naruto nodded and asked, "Why do we need to make a wand compatible with me? Why can't I suppress my powers so that normal wands can work for me?" Merlin smirked intelligently and answered, "That's a good question. But unfortunately, a wand chooses the wizard. The wand must choose you as its owner. Even if you suppress your powers, the wand had to be able to channel your magic from your core. Since your core is so big, a normal wand will shatter even if you try to use a Lumos spell." "Well, we will come across it when the time comes. First, I need to teach you something more important." Naruto listened very carefully and asked, confused, "Something?" Merlin answered, eyes twinkling, "A language, Naruto." Naruto looked surprised. "Really? I thought I perfectly understand you." The old man just smiled and said, "That's because you are in a limbo. Here, language has no meaning. But once you go to the mortal world, you will become confused because of the different languages." Naruto asked, surprised, "Really?" "Yes, of course. Your language is very similar to the Japanese language, if I'm right. In our world, there is a country named Japan and the people there use the same language you use. But we are not discussing about that. Since you are going to Britain, you will have to learn English, which is the international language. So I shall teach English language to you and even other languages if you are interested. Latin and French, perhaps. After all, most of the name of used spells are from Latin." Naruto mused from the words of the old man. The blonde knew that the old man standing before him was a very smart man and very interesting. Learning new tricks and powers was always something of an obsession. He always liked to train, so why not train in some different way, and in the way even if he needed to learn a different language, then so be it. He loved learning new things, and so an opportunity had presented itself to him to learn a completely new type of energy. So it was something of exciting. He already knew manipulation of various types of energies, such as chakra, natural energy, dark energy, etc. He just looked at the old man who was watching him in a calculating way. Naruto gave him his trademark goofy grin and declared in determination, "Let's do this. The Wizarding World is going to get a great surprise. For Namikaze Uzumaki, Naruto is coming to wreak havoc." Chapter 2. Harry meets Naruto. The busy streets of Diagon Alley was bustling with life as the wizarding shops were busy with their customers, witches and wizards doing whatever their work, children playing among themselves, and the vendors trying to sell their many items to the people. In between, the Madame Malkin's robe shop was full with young boys and girls buying their clothes, Flourish and Blots full with readers, and apothecary shops full of potion-crazed wizards. In between the busy streets, Gringotts building stood proudly telling others that they should not be disturbed or else there would be a hell to pay. The side alley near Gringotts, which was the entrance to Nocturne Alley, looked as gloomy and dark as usual, with full of dirty and filthy people, hags, vampires, and many dark wizards. Within the radiant life bustling Diagon Alley, there was a small alley which nobody paid attention. A man appeared out of thin air without making any noise. Only a small shift in air could be seen when the man landed. The man was wearing a dark hood hiding his face, and he was fairly tall. A thin line of smirk formed in the man's lips and he lifted his hood, revealing a handsome face with spiky blonde hair and deep cerulean blue eyes. He looked around his surrounding and noticed that nobody was watching. He quickly transformed his clothes to acceptable wizarding robes and sighed deeply. The man was none other than Namikaze Uzumaki Naruto. Naruto took out a small wand and cast the Notice Me Not charm over himself, and came out from the dark alley. He quickly blended with the people of Diagon Alley and went towards the Gringotts. He entered through the huge doors of the Wizarding Bank and noticed strange creatures. He quickly realized that the creatures were goblins as Merlin had described. He quickly went towards the front desk where a small goblin was writing something. He said in pure English, "Hello?" The goblin looked up and snorted uninterestedly and asked in a crafty voice, "What business do you have here?" Naruto quickly thanked Merlin for his warning about the goblins and said annoyed, "I wish to make an account. I have huge amount of money that I can't bring along with me wherever I go." The goblin perked up interested and said, "Can I see some samples so that I can know what type you have?" Naruto quickly replied, "Sure." He took out some money from his pocket and handed over to the goblin. The goblin examined the money and said in a nostalgic way, "Ah, Japanese currency. It has been a while since someone from Japan had tried to open an account here. Then you must be a Japanese wizard. Is it not?" The blonde smirked and answered obviously. "So am I allowed to make an account here?" "Certainly, Mr. Naruto Namikaze," the blonde replied, introducing himself. The goblin nodded and asked his subordinate to call for another goblin. A few minutes later a small goblin entered with some papers. He talked with the goblin in the desk and came towards Naruto and said, "I am Gobertoth. I will be making your account. Please come with me." Naruto nodded and followed after the goblin to a small office. The goblin took out a knife and a pot and said, "I need some blood samples so that your vault may be keyed to you. Obviously, you will get a key for withdrawal afterwards." Naruto nodded and cut his fingers and gave blood to the goblin. The goblin then took out some parchments and said, "Now Mr. Namikaze, sign these papers and your account will be complete. Afterwards please unseal your money so that we can convert it to galleons, sickles and nuts." Naruto took a quill and signed the papers and took out a scroll and unsealed the money. A huge cloud of smoke appeared and from there a huge amount of notes came out, filling up the entire room. The small goblin's huge eyes widened further from seeing huge amount of money. "So much money, it will be billions of galleons from just these," the goblin muttered in shock. "I've got to report this to Master Ragnarok. We got today a valuable customer." The goblin shook his head and clicked his fingers. The huge amount of money instantly vanished. The small creature took out a key and said, "Mr. Namikaze, your money has been converted to galleon and here is your key. Do you like to make a withdrawal?" Naruto answered, "Yes, I need to go shopping today." After withdrawing some money and purchasing many things from Diagon Alley, Naruto vanished from there. At Surrey. The evenings of Surrey were always hazy for Harry Potter when he went to the Magnolia Park to sit in the swings. Since his return from Hogwarts, he had been having nightmares of Voldemort and dying eyes of Cedric Diggory, and he always woke up screaming. It was actually embarrassing for a boy to be screaming from a nightmare, but he couldn't help it. Guilt had been eating him from the very moment Cedric died. If only he hadn't been so noble and used some selfishness to grab the cup, Cedric wouldn't have died. It's not like they were best of buddies, but still he was a friend nonetheless. After returning, he had tried to find information about the wizarding world from various sources. Since he couldn't have the Daily Prophet, he had to find other means of gathering information. His main source was the radio his Aunt Petunia used to listen to news, and he always paid attention to anything that clued him of Voldemort's activities. But he didn't find anything. He was also musing of the reasoning of Dumbledore for returning to his aunt's home. He had thought he would be living with Sirius after the tournament, but no, Dumbledore had to interfere in his life again. He was also slightly annoyed at his friends. Hermione had the gall to ask for letters every week while she hadn't sent any to him till now. What kind of friends they are who don't even write to him? He could understand Ron because Ron was a jealous git who didn't even know how to write a proper letter. His handwritings were so bad that he couldn't identify his scribbles. But Hermione? What was her excuse? They would get a row from him for sure, he mused darkly. Here he was wallowing in self-pity and they didn't have the time to ask for his well-being. At least they could send some news, anything regarding Voldemort, or even Death Eater activities. But no, he hadn't got a single word from them. He couldn't send any letter either because Hedwig was at the Weasleys. He missed her, and she was the only companion he had while he stayed at the Dursleys. He couldn't even use Muggle Post since the Weasleys don't even know how to receive one, and he didn't know Hermione's address. He should have asked her earlier about that. The one thing he was happy about that Fred and George took his prize money from the Triwizard Tournament. Maybe with those 1,000 galleons, they can open their joke shop. Weasley's wizard wheezes the world could all do with a few laughs. So with depressing thoughts, the Wizarding World's savior sat on one of the swings of Magnolia Park at this evening. He had no companion in Surrey because of his cousin Dudley. His whale of a cousin threatened everyone who wanted to befriend Harry in his childhood, and his aunt had spread horrible rumors about him being a disturbing child. He clenched his fist in anger. What right did they have to spread rumors about him like that? One day he would take his revenge. What Harry Potter didn't know was that he was being watched by two separate individuals. Well, not precisely. One person in a cheap invisibility cloak was snoring under the shade of a tree, and the other one had already located the lazy drunk and was making sure that he wouldn't get interrupted by him when he introduced himself to Harry. After he made sure that the drunk wouldn't wake up anytime soon, he slowly materialized himself and slowly approached the raven-haired scrawny boy sitting in the swing in depressing mode. He thought, if this is the attitude of the savior of the Wizarding World, then the world is doomed. What a lazy kid. He knew that the Dark Lord has come back, but instead of doing any productive work, he is being whinny about his unfairness of life. Oh well, then let's make sure he gets it after a while. No use in pondering this. Harry Potter startled from his thoughts when he heard rustling behind him. He quickly took out his wand and pointed towards the intruder. The intruder just raised his eyebrow and slowly said, "Well, someone is jumpy in this fine evening. By the way, good reflexes. You'd do well in Aura Academy, I reckon." Harry's eyes widened hearing about the word aura. After all, it was a word only used in the Wizarding World. So that means the boy in front of him must be a wizard. He studied the person in front of him and noticed that the boy must be slightly older than him. He was more handsome than Cedric, no doubt, and he looked like Asian-born. After a few minutes staring, Harry demanded, "Who are you? You're not a muggle if you know what an aura is." Naruto smirked slightly in amusement. He clapped and said, "Bravo, you can be smart if you want to be, Mr. Obvious." Harry's face darkened and pressed his wand harder and again asked, "Stop patronizing. I asked you a name?" Naruto's smirk widened and in the blink of an eye snatched Harry's wand and started to examine it. Harry's eyes widened in shock. He didn't even see what happened, and the strange boy had snatched his wand. "Hey, give me back my wand, you thief!" he yelled in anger. Naruto was still examining. He whispered, 11 inches, holly and phoenix feather quarries, of course unyielding. Nice wand. It prefers slightly darker magic, I presume." "Hey, stupid prat, are you even listening to me? Give me back my wand this instant. Are you a Death Eater?" If so, Harry was yelling and cursing obscenities. Naruto looked up from his musing and asked, "How did you say something?" Harry stopped his yelling and his anger grew after listening to his stupid question. He clenched his fist even harder. He was also slightly afraid of the person. What if the person in front of him was a Death Eater? Then he was doomed. His wand had been snatched, and he had no means to protect himself if he attacked. But at this moment his Gryffindor bravery had won, and he was fuming in anger and frustration. Naruto, seeing the look on Harry's face, burst out laughing. He fell on the ground and started laughing like a lunatic. He had tears in his eyes and laughter. "Ha ha ha, oh man, look on your face, Merlin, you should have seen your face's priceless. I haven't pranked anyone like this for a long time." Harry's anger had melted and he felt confused. Why in the Merlin's name this stupid boy is laughing like a maniac? He didn't find it funny. No, he shook his head. No, he didn't find it funny at all. Naruto, few minutes of hideously laughing, stopped his laughter and stood up slowly, still snickering. He apologized, still smirking. "Well, sorry. I was just making fun at you. Here is your wand." He gave the wand back to Harry. Harry hesitantly took back his wand and found the familiar rush of warmness. He sighed in relief. He could not explain, but he had always found a connection to his wand. And when his wand had been snatched, he felt like a part of him went missing. He scowled and retorted, "It's not funny." "Well, I was just lightening the mood. That's all. Still, you've got a nice and powerful wand, mind you. Take care of it," Naruto replied. "You are the one who snatched my wand like a thief. But you didn't answer my question. Who are you?" Naruto smiled warmly and said politely, "Well, didn't anyone teach you any manners? It is polite to give one's name before asking another. Say no." A slight pink rose in Harry's cheek and he avoided his gaze from Naruto and said, "Oh well, I just thought you already knew me as I'm famous in the Wizarding World." Naruto huffed and said, "Well, that's rubbish. So what if you are popular? It is still polite to introduce oneself first before asking a name." "I mean, I know about your stories, of course. What with those rubbish published in the Daily Prophet and all." Harry shook his head and placed his hand forward and introduced, "Sorry, well, I'm Harry James Potter. It's nice to meet you." Naruto took Harry's hand and shook it. He also introduced, "That's more like it. Pleasure to meet you too. My name is Naruto Namikaze." "Naruto, what a strange name. I've never heard any family like that," Harry said. Naruto smiled and said, "Noya wouldn't heard of it. I'm a foreigner. I'm from Japan." Harry was surprised to hear that. He asked in wonder, "A Japanese wizard? What a surprise. I haven't met any Japanese wizard in my life. I didn't even know there were Japanese wizards around." Naruto thought, "I'll not give you my proper introduction right now. But after familiarizing, I'll tell you some things about me." He unclasped his hand from Harry's and said, "Well, I work at the Japanese ministry and I'm very close to the Japanese minister for magic. I'll tell you more about myself, but I can't talk about it in open like that. Know any place for privacy?" Harry asked confused, "Why do we need privacy? I mean, can't we talk here? Do you mean someone have been spying on me?" Naruto said in surprise, "What? You haven't sensed anyone till now? I know I have knocked unconscious that drunk under that tree. He is under an invisibility cloak." Harry looked aghast. Someone had been spying on him? Was it Death Eaters? But Dumbledore said his home was quite safe. Had he been lied to? Maybe he did feel someone spying on him. The other morning he heard a crack of apparition. Who had been spying on him? Naruto, seeing that Harry was ghastly pale, said, "Relax, I don't think they are Death Eaters. They may be lackeys of Dumbledore. The Order of the Phoenix, you know." Harry looked surprised. "What? The Order what?" Naruto laughed. "I'll tell you about it if we get some privacy." Harry sighed and said, Well, I don't know any place like that. I don't actually live here most of the year, so I haven't found any secret place for hideout." Naruto stroked his chin in thought. After some time thinking, he said slowly, "What about your room? I can make myself invisible so that no one can see me entering your house. I can even make your room soundproof." Harry pondered for a second and answered, "Not a bad idea, actually. My uncle is at work and my cousin is probably beating some 10-year-old kid. Aunt Petunia went to the market. So maybe it's the best idea. Okay, let's go." Naruto nodded and did a hand seal and whispered, "Ninpu mai Seigakure, ninja art, hidden camouflage." Naruto's form shimmered and slowly he vanished from sight. Harry's eyes widened in shock. He looked around and asked, panicking, "You did magic? What if ministry catches me? I'm not supposed to do magic outside school." Naruto, still invisible, replied, "Relax, I am of age. And I didn't use magic at all. It's a slight trick I learned in my travels. So you can relax?" Harry sighed in relief. But he asked, "Can you teach me how to do that?" Naruto shook his head and answered, "Nozri, you can't learn this trick. You haven't got the necessary power to do that." Harry scowled but didn't say anything. He thought, what use showing that trick to me if he isn't teaching me? Stupid git. He simply walked towards the Dursley's house in silence. He knew Naruto was following him. As Harry and the mysterious wizard were returning to number 4 Private Drive, Harry was deep in thought. What a surprising turns of events. He just met this boy, but he already trusted him. He just couldn't bring himself to hate this mysterious Japanese friend. Maybe it was the charm. Or maybe he just reminded him of Fred and George. He couldn't tell. But he had this feeling that something's about to change. But what? He couldn't decide. After a few moments of silently walking, they reached number 4 Private Drive. Harry opened the door and quickly went through the kitchen towards the room. He opened his room and entered silently. He waited for some time and closed the door and sighed. "You still with me?" he asked. "In here," replied Naruto from Harry's back. Harry jumped in shock. He quickly span and saw that Naruto's form was starting to show, shimmering slightly. Harry barked, "Don't do that. You might give someone heart attack." Naruto, after becoming completely visible, laughed slightly. He waved his hand and said, "Don't be so paranoid. If you go on like this, you'll someday fear your own shadow." Harry scowled and sat down on his bed. He replied, "You sound like Professor Moody. Constant vigilance and all." "Are you talking about the retired Aura Moody? You know Alastair Moody?" "Yeah, the old bark. Actually, I don't know if the real Moody acts like that or not. What I knew was the imposter. Barty Crouch Jr., Harry said, annoyed, remembering the events. Naruto mused and said, "Oh well, no use pondering this. Well, let's make the room soundproof, shall we?" Harry nodded and replied, "Yeah, whatever what you want. My relatives don't want to do anything with me anyways. They only need me when there are chores to do." Naruto sighed and seeing Harry's attitude. Well, he needs to loosen up. He'll not be strong enough to defeat Voldemort like this. He did some hand seals and slammed his hand on the ground. A large seal array appeared under his hand, and it spread like a spider web surrounding the room. A soft glow appeared around the room and slowly disappeared. Harry's eyes again widened in surprise. He thought, what is he? He just does these strange hand moves and he can do everything. What kind of power is this? But I guess I can't learn this. He already told me I can't do them. But it doesn't mean I can't be annoyed at this. The seal array disappeared slowly. Naruto smiled, and in the blink of an eye he was behind Harry, and held him in strong grip, holding a kunai in front of his eye. The temperature of the room dropped few degrees and Naruto's eyes glowed red. He said in dangerous voice, I'm disappointed in you. You trusted me too easily. What if I am a Dark Lord's supporter? Harry's eyes widened in fear. He started shaking. I'm gonna die, he thought internally. But his Gryffindor bravery again came back in full force and replied in anger, I know that if you really are a Death Eater, you wouldn't kill me. Voldemort wants to kill me. He wouldn't let others kill me. And even if you kill me, will not go down so easily. At least I'll take you down with me. The temperature dropped again a few degrees and Naruto replied in a chilling aura, You are very brave to withstand my killing intent. But if I wanted to kill you, you wouldn't notice me until you are dead on the floor. Harry didn't reply. He was still shaking in fear. But he held on with his false courage. After a few minutes, the chilling aura slowly lifted and Naruto released Harry from his grip. Harry sighed in relief, but his shaking was still present. Naruto came back in front of Harry and asked, Why did you trust me so easily? I could have killed you. Harry shook his head to relief of his shaking and replied, Yes, you could have. But you didn't. I also know that you aren't a Death Eater. A Death Eater wouldn't shake hand with a filthy half-blood like me. I also know that there isn't any Japanese wizard in the ranks of Voldemort. You can always tell a Death Eater apart. If a Death Eater has found me, he would shout like a maniac and would try to take me down to deliver to Voldemort. A Death Eater isn't so smart to come up with a plan like that. And I know neither Voldemort nor any of his followers know how to do those tricks of yours. He replied, breathing heavily. Naruto looked at Harry for a few minutes and smiled slightly. He said, Well said. You've got intelligence if you deduce that just by observing me. Of course I wouldn't kill you. I'm here to offer my help after all. But in the future don't trust anyone too easily. Even if they are familiar to you, they may not be your friends at all. You know about the Polyjuice potion, right? Harry thought about that and nodded in understanding. His shaking had stopped, and he was relieved to say at least that his intuition was correct. But what was that chilling aura? He called it killing intent. What is that? He was scarier than Voldemort. Even facing Voldemort I didn't feel this much fear. It was like I have seen my death countless times in a gruesome way. What is he? Naruto observed him for a few seconds and asked, You alright? I've only released a small amount of killing intent. But still it is too much for someone like you. Here, take this. He took out a chocolate from his pocket and offered Harry. Harry hesitantly took the chocolate and slowly started eating. He felt better. He asked, That chilling aura? It's like Dementors. But more powerful, and you are telling me it's a small amount? Are you crazy? Naruto barked out laughing and said, Sorry sir, perhaps it was too much for you. I just wanted to make a point. But you didn't need to that in such a scary way. There are other means to prove a point. Harry replied, scowling. Like what? Killing you? Earning out like that. Naruto just clasped his fingers and said, Anyway, I am sorry. But let's get down to business. You wanted to know about me and the Order of the Phoenix, right? Harry's eyes perked up interested. He asked, Yeah, first tell me about you. Naruto thought for a few minutes and said, Alright, but you have to promise me that after my story, you have to tell me about yourself. Harry quickly looked sideways. He didn't want to talk about his life at all. He thought Naruto wouldn't notice his avoidance of information about his private life. But that blonde git was too smart for his own good. But he mouthed a promise. Excellent. Let's see, I already told you I work for the Japanese ministry, right? Harry nodded. But I didn't tell you what position I'm in. You may find it funny, but I'm the ambassador for the Japanese Ministry of Magic. The minister Takashi-san is a very good friend of mine. Harry was surprised to hear that. He asked, Ambassador? What does that mean? It means that I'm the representative of the ministry. I negotiate business with the foreign ministry and work as a mediator for our ministry and others. I've been recently appointed. Harry looked in awe. He said, Wow, you are a ministry ambassador in such a young age? Brilliant! Naruto laughed out loud. Why, thank you, I guess you could say that. I'm 19 years old. Actually, my dad was very popular in the Japanese wizarding community. And because of him, I was able to enroll in the Mahudakoro Academy pretty early on. Mahudakoro Academy? I've never heard of that. Harry know about the Bosbatons and Durmstrang, of course. Harry asked, confused. He didn't recognize the name of the school. He whispered, I wonder how many wizarding schools are there in the world? Maybe Hermione knows. Naruto, seeing the look of Harry's face, said, Your lack of information indicates that you don't study. You have intelligence in abundance, but you are limiting your own potential by wasting away time. You should study more. Harry's face pinked in embarrassment. It's true, he didn't study. He had been wasting away his time by playing exploding snap and wizarding chess with Ron. Only extra book he ever read was the Quidditch Through the Ages. Of course, he read the defense books in advance. That's why he's quite good at data. But other than that, he spent his free time discussing Quidditch with Ron. Still, he didn't want to admit his own fault and spoke quite defensively. You sound like Hermione. She always nags me and Ron to do better in classwork. So why don't you? But let's skip that. You are wondering about the Mahudakoro Academy, right? Well, the school is situated in the small island Nakanoshima in the sea, which is also home of the few wizarding communities in the country. The courtyard is filled with beautiful sakura trees. The building is a traditional Japanese castle. The subjects that teach in the school are not different from Hogwarts, for as I've gathered. We also take our OWLs and Newts in the 5th and 7th year respectively. Harry listened attentively, and he was very much surprised to hear details about another school. He would have loved to visit the school one day. If he survived the war, he definitely would visit the school. It was also pleasant to hear that the courses were not so different from Hogwarts. So you went to this academy, right? He asked. Yup. And what about your score in OWLs and Newts? I'm very interested to know about that. Ohlu Dirikal Harrykins wants to know my score. But I am not telling you that. Naruto smirked amusedly. Harry asked, surprised, why not? Did you fail? Now would I fail? In fact, I'm quite proud of my accomplishments. And the reason I'm not telling you is that I want you to find it yourselves. Research it on your own. You may also take help from your friends if you choose to. So no, let's forget about my education. So where was I? Haze, after my graduation I got a job in the ministry and quickly climbed my way to top. And here I am on ambassador for the Ministry of Magic. To tell you the truth, this is my first assignment. Harry was quite annoyed that he didn't tell him about the scores. But no matter, he had Hermione for research. Oh, forgot. He was angry at his friends, didn't he? What the bloody hell was he thinking about giving Hermione the job of researching? He couldn't ask of her. He was going to lash out at her for not contacting him this summer. Didn't he? He sighed. He was not listening to what Naruto was saying. He only heard the last part about the assignment. He quickly asked. Assignment? What assignment? Let's forget about that now. I'll tell you about it in a matter of minutes. You've got to be informed of this. You are involved in this. Naruto replied. What? I'm involved in this? Now the Japanese ministry is interested in me? Bloody hell. Harry cursed his fame. His stupid reputation had caught him in a spider-like web from which he couldn't find a way out. Stupid boy who lived. Don't curse, Harry. It's not so bad. But we'll discuss about that in a few minutes. Let's talk about the Order of the Phoenix, shall we? Naruto offered. Naruto could tell Harry had become interested. Dumbledore had Harry wrapped around his finger. He needed to entangle Harry from Dumbledore's grasp. Otherwise Harry would walk to his own death if Dumbledore were to order him so. Dumbledore wasn't a bad man actually. But he had forgotten about the important part while thinking about the greater good. Now the Order of the Phoenix is a secret society created by Dumbledore in the previous war to fight against the Dark Lord. I know this because, well, I have researched thoroughly about the First War. I've heard that your parents James and Lily Potter were members of the Order. So was Alastair Moody. There were others like Sirius Black, Remus Lupin, Peter Pettigrew, Frank and Alice Longbottom, Merlin McKinnon, Gideon and Fabian Pruitt, Caradoc Dearborn, Benji Fenwick, Daedalus Diggle, Dorcas Meadows, Edgar Bones, Aberforth Dumbledore, Rubius Hagrid, Minerva McGonagall, Severus Snape, Sturgis Padmore, Emmeline Vance, Alpheus Doge, Mundungus Fletcher and Arabella Figg, also Order members. After the defeat of the Dark Lord, Dumbledore disbanded the group. Many members were killed in the First War. Harry was surprised, to say at least. He didn't know that his parents were members of a secret society. Some of the names he didn't recognize at all. He thought, Arabella Figg. She's a witch? Did Dumbledore place her near Dursley's to keep an eye on me? That old Kutha has been keeping tabs on me. And Pettigrew? What was that traitor doing there? Harry asked. I know my parents died fighting Voldemort, but what about the others? Some of them also got killed, right? Naruto answered, it's not my place to say. But I'll say some of their fates. According to my research, Frank and Alice Longbottom were tortured to insanity by Bellatrix, Rabaston and Rodolphus Lestrange. That's I already know. I mean Professor Dumbledore told me about Neville's parents. Harry interrupted. Right, well let's see, Gideon and Fabian Pruitt were killed in action. Both were killed by Antonin Dolohov. Merlin McKinnon was also killed along with her whole family. Cardock Dearborn disappeared and never found. Benji Fenwick was mutilated and Dorcas Meadows was also killed. Edgar Bones was killed along with his wife and children. That's the extent of casualty of Order members in the First War. So many were killed, I never thought Voldemort would wipe out entire families. Some of them were purebloods, weren't they? So much for blood purity. Harry thought in sadness. He had never ever imagined about the outcome of war. Well, he did know that war involved casualties, but he didn't imagine it to be so horrible. Nobody's safe. It's either join Voldemort or suffer the consequences. And those Death Eaters, they were as ruthless as their master. What monsters! Harry clenched his teeth in anger and guilt. Their sacrifices had gone in vain. Voldemort had risen again due to his fault. And Cedric? Cedric shouldn't have to die. Seeing that Harry was lost in thought, Naruto poked Harry's forehead. Ow, Harry muttered. You were spacing out, Naruto said pointedly. Prat. Well, anyways, now the question is, why was that Order member spying on you, right? Well, I presume seeing that the Dark Lord has arisen again, Dumbledore must have thought about assigning bodyguards for you. He must have initiated the Order again with new members. Well, I thought as much. But why do I need bodyguards? I know that Voldemort is after me and all, but why? I bet those bodyguards will not be able to bend a single hair of Voldemort should he attack. Oh wait, Voldemort doesn't have any hair. Pity, Harry muttered darkly. I mean, didn't you find it strange that Dumbledore is too much interested in me? He is like, I don't know, maybe like treating me as a weapon. Am I thinking too much about this? Naruto chuckled slightly. He said, you're not wrong actually. Dumbledore is too much interested in keeping you in dark. Why really? That's a million-galleon question. Well, we'll come across it when the time comes. Now you were wondering about me visiting you at this evening, right? Harry nodded. He was actually wondering about that. He couldn't understand why a ministry official had visited him. He understood that he was involved in some plans, but what, he couldn't say. It's like Dumbledore involvement all over again. Why was a foreign ministry interested in him anyway? He is just Harry. Nothing special about him other than the stupid title. Naruto answered, well, I have come here from the orders of the minister Takashi Hidero. I've been ordered to make acquaintances with you. What? You were ordered? But why? Harry asked, surprised. Oh well, I can't tell you that it was Merlin who have summoned me help you. It's not the right time. For now, just take my lies and face value. Ultimately it will help you anyway. Naruto thought internally. To answer that, I must tell you something. Well, you know about the Department of Mysteries in the Ministry, right? Harry nodded. Well, just like your ministry, we have also such a department in our ministry. Harry was astonished to hear that. Naruto continued, a few weeks ago, some of our unspeakables were conducting an experiment on an object. The object's name is Tamashi Anka, or in English Soul Anchor. Well, you know about the ghosts, right? Nod. Well, according to the unspeakables, the device was invented to know about stray souls within certain vicinity. It can also detect souls who have strayed from the natural path. Harry asked, what does that mean? Strayed from natural path? Naruto sighed, well, I shouldn't even tell you this. But it involves you, so you must know about them. Right, it's very dark magic actually. A person can tear his soul apart by doing an unspeakable horror. If a wizard murders any innocent people in cold blood, his soul tears into pieces. The soul pieces that have been separated from the original soul can be preserved by imprisoning them in objects. In the past, the evil wizard named Harpo the Foul had first succeeded in placing a piece of his soul in an object. The object is known as Horcrux. The process of creating a Horcrux is very gruesome and horrible. Harry was sick in the stomach by hearing that. What kind of sick maniac would destroy his own soul like that? He felt like throwing up. Harry asked, bow rising in his throat, so this Horcrux thing, what's the purpose of this unnatural thing? Well, for immortality, of course. As long as a part of the person's soul stays in the mortal world, he can't die even if his body dies. Well, now, as for the soul anchor, well, for practice, the minister decided to experiment it in an area. We first scanned the area surrounding Tokyo. To the minister's delight, the device detected every stray soul there. The device also shows the individual names for which those souls were originally belonged to. Naruto took a breath and said, "Our minister is a very hyperactive person. Once an idea goes to head, he's quite unstoppable. So after scanning Tokyo, he had this crazy idea. He asked the unspeakables whether the device can scan a whole country or not. They replied that it may work. The minister decided to scan a bigger country. To our surprise, he decided Britain, the original magical land. So reluctantly, we scanned, and to our surprise we got not only the ghost's name but also a very popular name in the device. Can you guess who was it?" Harry was startled and he asked, slightly worried, "You don't suppose? It can't be." "Well, right, it was Dark Lord Voldemort. The scanner showed that the Dark Lord has several severed pieces of his soul spread in various places. I didn't think that Voldemort was this twisted." Harry finally understood. That's what he meant by going further in the realm of immortality than others. He said that in that graveyard, Voldemort had created several Horcruxes to prolong immortality. That's why he didn't die that Halloween night. That's why he was in a wrath form, possessing Quirrell and others. Harry inhaled in expiration and said, "Bloody hell." Naruto said, slightly smiling, "Indeed." Well, after that the minister became quite furious. He cursed the British ministry for several minutes. After he calmed down, we held a meeting and we discussed in details. After the discussion, the minister privately met me in his office. He asked me to come to Britain and solve this mess the British ministry had created. There is also this one thing that quite bothered him. Harry asked in wonder, "What thing?" "Well, in the secret chamber of prophecies inside the ministry building, we found this small orb that has two names inscribed on it. You see, prophecies are a very hectic thing. People usually don't believe it. Every ministry has their own hall of prophecy inside their ministry. We are not exception. So the name written on the orb had quite disturbed us. Can you guess who those two names were?" Harry shook his head in confusion. "What's a prophecy got to do with anything?" Naruto answered, "Everything, Harry. You see, the prophecy had yours and the Dark Lord's name imprinted on it. It means that you two are destined to meet each other and fight. One of you will have to die by the other. I don't know the exact wording of the prophecy. After all, a prophecy can only be retrieved by those whose names are inscribed to it." Harry Potter started hyperventilating and took short breaths. Naruto quickly sat beside Harry and started rubbing on Harry's back. After a few minutes, Harry said, shaking, "What did you just say? There is a prophecy regarding me and Voldemort? What the bloody hell are people thinking? How can they expect me to defeat him when I'm just a 14-year-old boy with mediocre magic? He is the Dark Lord, even Dumbledore can't defeat him. How can I do that?" Naruto nodded, giving another chocolate to Harry and said, "Well, it's true. You don't stand a chance if you try to defeat him now. That's what the minister and I discussed privately. What is Dumbledore thinking? If you really are destined to fight Voldemort, why hasn't he instructed you? Why is he so desperate to keep you in the dark?" Harry also pondered this. How can Dumbledore betray him like that? He asked him about it in the first year, right? So why didn't he tell him that Voldemort was after him because of a prophecy? Maybe that's why his parents went into hiding? His parents were killed because of him. Voldemort was after him, not his parents. He remembered his mother screaming to Voldemort not to kill him. Dementors were good at resurfacing those memories. The hurt feeling from Dumbledore's betrayal came back along with those dying eyes of Cedric. His guilt came back in twofold. Tears started to fall from his eyes. "It's my fault. My fault, me parents died because of me," he sobbed. "Harry, listen to me, all right?" Naruto took hold of Harry's shoulders and looked at his eyes. He said clearly, "It's not your fault, Harry. They died to protect you. It's their choice to die protecting you. Can you honestly say that you wouldn't do the same if it was you? Nobody wants to see their child die before their time. So don't take responsibility for their deaths. You should be proud of your parents. They bravely stood against Voldemort and fought him until their dying breaths. They were brave people." Naruto also remembered his own mom and dad. The fourth Hokage and Uzumaki Kushina. They also died protecting him. He himself shed a handful of tears remembering them. He still clearly remembered those words his mother said to him in his mindscape. "I love you." And the advices she had given him in her dying breath. He would forever remember them. Though he could still see them as traveling back in time had given him the opportunity to get to know both of them. But he would never forget his original birth parents. They were great people. He was also proud of their accomplishments. So he would honor them by remembering them, but he would never blame himself for their death because they chose to sacrifice their lives for him. Your parents loved you very much. That love of your mother has always protected you from harm. So stop crying and man up. Take revenge on their deaths. Destroy Voldemort and his merry band of group. They deserve nothing less than death. Believe it. Harry, hearing those words, calmed down and wiped his eyes. He said, "You are right. They chose to die protecting me. It's not my fault. It's the others that are at fault here. Dumbledore, Pettigrew the traitor, Voldemort, and those bloody Death Eaters. It's all their fault. That's more like it. You have to remain strong if you want to destroy the Dark Lord. But actually, I don't think it's Dumbledore's fault. He may have short-sightedness. But he is good of heart. He has this crazy notion of keeping secrets to himself, and never giving it to a single person. He prefers not to place all the eggs in one basket. He'll tell you bits of it one at a time but never reveal it at one go. I do think he shall reveal about the prophecy to you at some times in the future, but not before a disaster. Maybe he thinks that keeping you in the dark, you'll be less likely to wonder about the prophecy. And enjoy your childhood, Naruto said thoughtfully. Harry was also thinking the same thing. Enjoy his childhood? He snorted. He didn't think living with the Dursleys had given him any kind of childhood. He was forced to grow up here. He had been treated like a house elf from the moment he could walk and talk. As long as he could remember, he was not allowed to enjoy his childhood at all. His memory for the Patronus was also just his imagination. He never ever remembered anything happy. Dumbledore wanted him to enjoy his childhood? What about in the school? He had been in death's door far more frequently than anyone. First year was Quirrell with Voldemort sticking in his head. Second year was a bloody basilisk. Without Fawkes, he would have died. Third year was the only year he was not doing any life-threatening work. But fourth year, well, that year was the disaster. Bloody Barty Crouch Jr. had entered him into the Triwizard Tournament. He stole a golden egg from a Hungarian horntail, rescued 2 people from the grasp of mere people, and lastly he witnessed the death of Cedric. He had barely escaped from Voldemort. His survival depended solely on luck alone. So how could Dumbledore expect him to enjoy his childhood? It's preposterous. I believe the reason Dumbledore wanting you to enjoy your childhood is because of his own disastrous childhood. He had been a figurehead far too young. Naruto, still deep in thought, said. Harry jerked awake from his thoughts and asked, his own childhood? How do you know so much about Dumbledore? Didn't you tell me that he prefers to keep secrets to himself? Oh, didn't I tell you I've researched about it? I've traveled the world and people talk if know the art of persuasion. I can be very sneaky if I want to be. I have dirt on every great wizard in the world. Naruto replied smugly. Harry was astonished to say at least. He smirked and said, You're like a slimy Slytherin? You would have done well in Slytherin if you had come to Hogwarts. Oh really, that's not so bad I suppose. But let's skip the discussion about Dumbledore for another time. There are things I would like to inform you about. Harry nodded in understanding. He said, Okay, right? You were saying about the prophecy, right? Right, well, after Minister and I found the prophecy, we discussed about it in details. We've also found out about his Horcruxes. But the locations of the Horcruxes are unknown even to us. The device only shows us the general vicinity after all. So we discussed that the best course of action is to act upon it. We knew that, if we let Voldemort to run free, after conquering Britain he would come for other countries as well. So decided that informing you the threat is the best action so that you may be prepared. I don't think Dumbledore is ready to train you anytime soon, so we took it upon ourselves the job of preparing you. We can't talk about it in the British Ministry. What with those campaigns of degrading your name in the sewer and all. I've read the Daily Prophet, of course. It's publishing very bad things about you, saying that you are mentally disturbed or other. It's all rubbish. Naruto huffed in annoyance. Harry was shocked. Daily Prophet was in the campaign of degrading him? He clenched his fist in anger. It's almost like the Triwizard Tournament all over again. Rita Skeeter had written very nasty lies about him in the Prophet. But Hermione caught her, didn't she? So that means other reporters were also trying to win favors of the Ministry by going through Rita's example, weren't they? The Minister, of course, wasn't fond of him at the moment. What's with Minister denying about Voldemort's return and all? He was very frightened of the idea of Voldemort's return. Well, forget about Daily Prophet right now. I'll take care of that. So now the part where I came in. You see, I don't think you are doing anything productive at all by wallowing in self-pity. You know that Valdi is after you, right? So why aren't you doing anything? Harry looked away in guilt. Of course he wasn't doing anything productive. He had insomnia. Every time he went to sleep, he would dream of Cedric's dying eyes and his mother screaming. He would wake up with splitting pain in his scar. He had stayed awake several nights. He had tried to read his defense books, but he could not pay attention because of his lack of sleep. He was not receiving any news of Voldemort's activity, and his friends had seemed to forget about him. So what could he do? It's not like I can do anything at all. Voldemort has 50 years of experience on me. So what can I do? Even if I train every day, I don't think I'll be powerful enough to stand a chance against him. Harry replied defensively. You don't know until you try. This kind of attitude is loser's attitude. You don't apply your intelligence in your studies. I've seen your results, of course. Did you know that every test score is sent to the ministry? You are trying to be a mediocre student. Do you intend to remain like that for the rest of your life? Half-assed student? You know there is a saying, knowledge is power, so what is your excuse of your poor performance in the tests? Naruto shot back to Harry. Harry shrunk back. He knew Naruto was right. He had never applied himself in his studies. In third year, in favor of easy mark, he chose divination and had been a prey of Trelawney's death prediction every week. He grimaced thinking about it. One of these days, her prediction would come true and his luck would run out. Learn this, Harry. I'll not tolerate your half-assed behavior from now on. I've been located here for the sole purpose of training you. It's my job to foresee your survival in this war, Naruto said in conviction. Harry replied in surprise, You train me? But what can you do? I mean, you're not very older than I am. You said yourself that you're only 19 years old. If Dumbledore can't do anything, then what hope do you have? The cold aura came back like hurricane, but this time very much potent. Harry couldn't breathe. He thought, this feeling again, it's like the air is suffocating me and the whole world has become heavier. Are you questioning my power? I've told you I work for the ministry, right? The ministry wouldn't appoint me here unless I'm special. You'd do well to remember that. Naruto growled at Harry. Harry's eyes widened. He felt like the gravity had become 10 times stronger. He quickly apologized. I am sorry. I'll not do this again. I promise. The suffocating feeling slowly disappeared. Harry sighed in relief. He could not believe he felt so puny. I'm sorry too if I made you uncomfortable. I'm not too fond of people who underestimate me. But enough about that, Naruto slowly said, calming down. Harry shook his head and said, Yeah, I am not ready to experience that again. Indeed. Now, starting from now, I'll be teaching you about various types of magic. The minister thinks that if you're not prepared, then let's say there'll be dark times ahead of us, Naruto said. Harry, thinking about it, asked, Now that's good and all. But where will we practice magic? I'm not allowed to do magic outside of school. The second year I've been warned by the ministry for doing magic, and it was Dobby who did that. And my room is not very ideal place for doing magic, you know. Naruto just smirked knowingly. He reassured Harry, Don't worry, Harry. Leave everything to me. Naruto loved to annoy people by his mysteries. Seeing Harry's face, he laughed harder. He said, laughing, The look on your face. It's hilarious. Harry scowled, not knowing the solution at all. He sighed in the childishness of Naruto. He said, You remind me of Fred and George. I presume you're not telling me how we'll practice magic, right? Naruto, still smirking, said, Nah, that is a surprise. Harry scowled again and brooded. He sighed in frustration. Suddenly he jumped and exclaimed, eyes wide, Oh my God. Naruto, surprised, also startled. He asked, What? We've been talking for hours. My relatives must have come back, and seeing that I'm not doing the chores, they'll be mad. Blimey, Harry explained. Naruto shook his head in dramatics of Harry. He placed his hand on Harry's shoulder and said, Did you really think I haven't taken precaution? Harry, the soundproof barrier I erected is not an ordinary ward. It's also a time displacement ward I personally invented. That means time moves slower in the outside world compared to here. We're talking for 5 to 6 hours? Outside of this room only half an hour has passed. Harry's eyes widened in shock. He exclaimed in awe, Brilliant! You're a genius! You've personally created this, amazing! Of course I am, Naruto boasted. Harry was astonished, to say at least. He had never met such a person. His new Japanese friend had the talent of many, was also quite brilliant. Maybe that's why the Japanese ministry had preferred him. Maybe training with him would not be bad at all. Naruto removed his hand from Harry's shoulder and said, Well, I believe our formalities are over. Now I've some very important works to do, so I'll meet you tomorrow. Be ready for anything. Harry nodded. Naruto again said, And I'll not tolerate slagging off. Read your books. I'll be looking forward to your training. He grinned with an evil aura. Harry stepped back disturbed. He didn't like the grin on Naruto's face at all. No, didn't like it at all. Right, well, I'll be going now, Naruto said, doing a head seal. Kai, release. The room hummed and the seal matrix shuddered, disappearing like fireworks. The barrier had been deactivated. Naruto looked at Harry and said, Well, bye-bye then. We'll meet tomorrow. Harry waved. Yeah, wait, how will you go? Are you going to become invisible again? Naruto shook his head, indicating a no. Alright, bye. He waved and suddenly disappeared from there in a flash of yellow. Harry stumbled back in his bed in shock. How many times will he get surprised today? Blimey, it's like the man had never run out of tricks. What kind of power was that? It's not apparition. Otherwise he would have heard the familiar crack of apparition or disapparition. He sighed, wondering what tomorrow would bring. He learned many things today. How Voldemort's been staying alive these years, Dumbledore's secret society, the prophecy, Japanese ministry. He had this feeling in his gut something's about to change. For the better or worse? He didn't know. But he liked it. If Dumbledore would not do anything about it, then he would take matters in his own hand. He would destroy Voldemort in his own terms. No more relying on half-assed explanation of his headmaster. He would try to do his best from now on. He now had a chance to prove himself. He felt relieved that at least someone had been trying to do something about Voldemort. If the British ministry couldn't do it, then Japanese ministry was taking it their business. Foolish fudge. He'll get what's coming to him. His new friend would bring a change in their community. He was sure of it. But it felt right. That it was meant to be. And he would follow whatever path his friend chose to walk on. He had only met him today, but he felt quite familiar and welcoming feeling from him. Like he had already sworn loyalty to him, such the charisma. He grinned at this and murmured, "Well, right, let's get down to business." He nodded to himself, and went down to kitchen to make something for him. He would do the chores, and after that he would study and take a good night's sleep. He had a feeling that no nightmare would haunt him tonight. Chapter 3. A different kind of training. Unknown location. Surrounded by sea, in the island, never known to humankind, for as long as people could remember, this place hadn't existed at all. The location had been forever wiped from the memories of people. Surrounded by old magic and mysteries, the place had been hailed as many names. Some superstitions had grown from those forgotten memories, for a person's memory can never be completely destroyed. Somewhere deep within their consciousness, the memory remains intact, and from that subconscious mind, people come up with ridiculous fantasies. The Muggles called it with different names, for they couldn't locate the actual position of the island. Wizard kind had forgotten the place long before. The place had been secured by old magic, and in the era of the 15th centuries, when Muggles were burning wizards and witches in the pyres, it was a sanctuary. They held wizarding refugees and provided them with food and shelter in need. In the depth of the island's core, there situated a mansion, or more frequently a manor large enough to hold an army of trolls. The manor was secured with old magic and very powerful runic wards. Never had people ever witnessed such wondrous magic work that went to prevent the manor to become visible to everyone. Wit beyond measure and cunning that rivaled the one Salazar Slytherin himself, both possessed by the people that had been living in that manor, took their protection very carefully. They were successful in isolating themselves from the materialized world, and were able to preach magic beyond human understanding. They were hailed pioneers and the adversaries of magic. The complex work they had done was praised as best from the wizard kind, either pure blood, or even Muggleborns. So, in the dark depth of the manor, two people were discussing in a discreet manner. They were so secretive about their conversation that, if they were caught discussing such topics, they would be locked up in Azkaban for the rest of their lives. Even the walls have ears after all. A third person joined them, admittedly female, who had brought some starters since lunch had yet to consume by the occupants. She made a cup of tea and gave it to the guest of theirs. "Thanks, madam," thanked the masked man. "I feel bad for making you prepare tea." The woman just smiled. "Ah, no problem at all. I love to prepare food myself. I enjoy it. And Millie always complains that my wife had overtaken her kitchen. It's such a funny thing to watch," the other occupant added. The wizened woman punched her husband and said, "Prat." "Ouch," the husband muttered playfully. The other occupant just watched them in morbid fascination, sipping his tea. He chuckled at their antics. He said, "It's heartwarming to watch two people who are very much in love." The other two just looked at the man and laughed slightly. The woman said, "Oh well, it's our regular activities. We are lonely after all. We have no one but each other." She squeezed her husband's shoulder lovingly. The man smiled. He said, "Indeed, old man, can you do that what I asked of you?" The wizened man sighed and answered, "Yes, I can provide it. But didn't you think it's a bit extreme? The ingredients you requested are far more dangerous than you think." "Can you really handle it?" the woman said, carefully sipping her own tea. The masked man answered, "Oh well, I'll find out about it, right? It's not like I'll use it on myself. I have my dignity to maintain." The older man chuckled. "You are a very curious person, Mr. Unknown Guy." The woman, still not convinced, said, "But still, aren't those too much dangerous? Those ingredients? Tears of a mermaid, fang of a nun, why of a basilisk, and those horrible things," she shuddered. Are you trying to make use of that ritual? She posed the question tentatively, unsure. She was concerned of the idea of that ritual. The ritual that made healthy people mad just by watching it. It was so horrible that the Ministry of Magic hailed it as very dark magic along with the unforgivables. Never had she ever watched horror of that kind in her life. She was traumatized forever. So she was very unsure to provide ingredients to their guest. She had yet to know the reason behind their guest's request. But her husband had put faith in the man, so she would comply with the request, but she was very reluctant. She knew not why this man had asked for those. For she was very unsure if he really would be successful in his attempt. The man answered, "That would be correct, madam. Seeing the look on your face, I surely can tell that you don't trust me. You are unsure about my success in the ritual. Am I right, madam?" He looked at her eyes and gazed intently. And after that, the woman was shocked, for as long as she could remember, nobody had ever able to penetrate her occlumency barrier since her teacher and husband. But this young man had just broken her shield like a piece of glass. Who was he? Why, she asked, eyes wide. The masked man apologized. "I'm very sorry, madam, for breaking into your mind like that. But I wanted to prove to you that I'm very capable. Don't worry, I don't intend to fail in this ritual. For the world's future is dependent on it." The woman nodded slowly, having to come to terms with that. She was very surprised would be an understatement. Nosh was also very fearful of this person. Not even Merlin would be able to do what he had done in seconds. Sosh accepted the man's request wholeheartedly. The man grinned and looked at the older man. "I hope you are not angry at me for breaking into her mind." The bearded man answered, "Nah, after Ali also wanted to test you. I wanted to know if you are capable of what you claimed. So I let you do that, and I want to thank you for humiliating her in front of Mezins. She always acts tough around me." The woman looked at her husband aghast, and she growled towards her husband menacingly, "You." Her husband looked at her in scared eyes and surrendered, "Honey, I am Soriawal." She started beating him with a baton. Seeing that they were again doing childish things, the man chuckled, "Mental, you too. Oh, well, I am just going to leave you two lovebirds alone for now. Goodbye, oh hand old man, don't forget to be ready with the ingredients. I shall come back next week." He waved at them and said his goodbye. The two bickering couple watched as their guest disapparated with a crack saturating the air molecules. The man said, "Oh, goodbye." Then he frowned and asked his wife, "Dear, hadn't we casted an anti-apparition ward around this manor long ago?" The wife also frowned and answered, "Yes, I remember casting it." "We both, didn't you remember?" He answered, "That's the thing, I remember it correctly. But how come he was able to apparate within our ward? Our ward is strong enough to repel even house self-apparition. Don't you think it's strange?" "Yes, it's very strange indeed." The woman muttered deep in thought. She stood up abruptly and started going towards their library. The man asked, "Where are you going?" "To the library, I have some research to do," she answered, looking back, and disappeared through the door. Number 4, Private Drive. Harry Potter woke up from his long night's slumber with a cheerful demeanor. Truth to his intuition, there was no nightmare that haunted him in his sleep. For the first time, he didn't see Cedric's dying eyes and the horrible resurrection of Voldemort. The morning was perfect until his oaf of an uncle decided to destroy his good mood with his loud banging and shouting. The man couldn't get a life for a change. "Boy, get down here," Vernon Dursley barked, still banging the door. "You can't expect Petunia to prepare breakfast, are you?" he growled. Harry, annoyed that his peaceful morning was ruined, put on his round glasses and started preparing for the day. He put on his regular clothes, which were too large for him, and opened the door. He came downstairs and started helping his aunt to prepare breakfast. Even though he was loudly awakened by his good uncle, he was still in cheerful mood. And no one, even Voldemort, would be able to take away his smile. "Boy, what the devil are you doing?" Vernon growled from the dining table, reading his regular newspaper. "Hurry up, I don't have all day." The green-eyed boy who lived sighed and slowly replied, "Yes, Uncle Vernon." His Aunt Petunia dropped a plate of small breakfast in front of him and said indifferently, "You have chores to do," giving him the list of chores. Dudley came down from his room as usual with his heavy footsteps. He was still half asleep and he sat down on his chair. Petunia immediately took a large chocolate cake from the refrigerator and placed in front of Dudley. "Here, did he conceal your favorite chocolate cake?" and started fussing over him. His cousin immediately dug on the cake like a filthy pig. Harry snorted in disgust watching Dudley. He shook his head and took his plate of food to his room to eat peacefully. His relatives didn't object his action, as they also liked to stay away from him. He ate his breakfast silently and started thinking about the upcoming training with his mysterious Japanese wizard whom he had met the day before. His thoughts drifted to the prophecy and what it implied. He was sure that if he were to face Voldemort now, then he would die horribly. He had 50 years of experience on him. Voldemort was not the strongest Dark Lord for nothing. After all, he had dwelled far in the dark magic than anyone. Though, Harry was sure that Voldemort didn't understand certain things. Something that is worth fighting for. The greatest fear of Voldemort was death. He was sure of it. After all, Tom created Horcruxes to cheat death. He felt sick just to think about those vile things. He didn't know the ritual that created Horcruxes, but he was sure that it wasn't pretty. Something like that would require sacrifices, even live human beings. He shuddered and shook his head to clear of those sick thoughts. He needed to concentrate, and if he was not focused, then he would be in the world of pain. The dark smile on Naruto's face was scary, really scary. Done with his eating, he opened up his defense books and started flipping through the pages. As he had already read those books previously, so he didn't think it was necessary to remain on a page for very long. The spells on the defense books were not so advanced, and it's not like he hadn't mastered them, but taking a good look again was a good course of action presumed. He had to practice more advanced spells the previous year because of the Triwizard Tournament, and it came in handy. He had very wide arsenals of defensive spells and he was good at casting them. He had been wondering what kind of training Naruto was going to give him. He wasn't quite sure what to learn from his friend. As he was not so older than he would feel quite awkward learning from Naruto. Regardless, he would try his best. After all, Naruto had come for his help when no one was ready to give him. It took a different nation to realize the threat of Voldemort when his own country was reluctant to act upon it. The corruption of the ministry ran to the core. He snorted in disgust. Since he was not allowed to practice magic, he just tried to imitate the wand movements and the incantations. His transfiguration and charm work needed some work, and he absolutely hated divination. Why did he choose divination in the first place? Oh hi, it was Ron's idea for easy marks. Brilliant, now he had to endure that for rest of his school life. But maybe would fail in the divination in the OWLs and drop it completely. Potion was another subject he was not very fond of. He wasn't hateful towards the subject itself, but the teacher instead. The greasy-haired Snape had made Potion his most hated subject. He couldn't even breathe into the classroom and Snape took points. Snape was completely biased towards any house excluding Slytherin. What's the man's problem? He didn't understand. Every year there was a new teacher for defense against the dark arts. First year was Quirrell with Voldemort sticking out from his head, second year with the idiot Lockhart, third year was the best with Lupin. Though fourth year was taught by a Death Eater, it wasn't so bad. Barty Crouch Jr. was good at defense spells and he taught them fairly even in pretense. He wondered who would teach in the coming year. "Yo!" came a voice from his back. "What the?" Harry, eyes wide, immediately jumped from his seat and span around. To his surprise, Naruto was seated on his bed reading a scroll and waving at him. Harry calmed his nerves and took a deep breath. He shook his head and asked, "How?" Naruto just looked towards him from his reading and asked, "How did you say something?" Harry's eyes twitched in irritation and muttered, again with his half-witted antics. He growled, "I asked how did you come to my room, seriously with your antics, people would not take you seriously." Naruto asked with a mock surprise, "Really?" Harry sighed and sat down on his bed and again asked, "How did you apparate into my room without any sound? I know that apparition make a very loud sound." Naruto stroked his chin in thought, "How indeed? Well, to answer your question, I didn't apparate into your room." "What? But how can that be? Did you come here invisible? But then I would have noticed you open my door. How did you do that?" Naruto answered, "Odd dilemma, people always ask me the same question. How? Well, just as you said, I didn't become invisible again. I don't very much like to become invisible. It gives me the creeps. Anyway, just as I said, I didn't apparate, I simply transported myself to your room." Harry, still confused, asked, "Transported? But how?" Naruto smiled at Harry's confusion. "I love to see people's faces when they are confused. It's hilarious." He looked around and pointed his finger to a corner of the room and said, "See that, Harry?" Harry looked towards the corner where Naruto was pointing and saw some strange letters. It was inscribed with some kind of black ink. He asked, "Where did that come from, and what is it?" Naruto, still pointing, answered, "That is what transported me to your room. Those are not ordinary letters, Harry. Those are seal markings. I marked that when I was in your room yesterday." "You marked those? But when?" "I didn't notice you mark anything at all," Harry asked. "Well, when I was placing the barrier, I mark your rooms so that I can transport myself without becoming invisible again, Naruto answered. Those markings are a special type of seals that are linked to me. With that I can summon myself to where the seals are placed. You also saw a glimpse of my technique yesterday, didn't you? Harry remembered and said in recognition, "Oh, so that's what the flash of yellow was when you disappeared from my room yesterday." Yes. Harry was astonished and said with an inspired eye, "You are a genius. You invent techniques left and right, and yet you are only 19 years old." Naruto laughed out loud and said, "Haha, actually I didn't invent this technique. My father was the one who created this marvelous technique. And he passed this secret to me. This technique is a family secret, so no one can learn it. You understand?" Harry nodded, still astonished. He thought, I guess like father, like son. His father must be an incredible man, I reckon. I've already told you, didn't I, why father was popular in my community. He was recognized as one of the best. But let's forget about my father's accomplishments, shall we? Harry wanted to know more about Naruto's father, but he realized that there were more important things to worry about. He could learn about that later. So he readily agreed to Naruto's suggestion. "Yeah, all right." Naruto, delighted, exclaimed, "Let's get started." Wait, what? I can't go with you right now, I have chores to do," Harry said, looking around. Naruto just waved his arm and said, "Don't worry about it, Harry. I'll take care of it." Naruto started to concentrate. Harry looked at Naruto's face and wondered what he would do next. He was anticipating something akin to another mysterious technique. So he waited for some time. Naruto opened his eye and barked, "Zetsu, come on out." Zetsu, what is that? Harry thought. He suddenly jumped in fright when a figure started to emerge from the ground. The figure was made up of some kind of gooey stuff. The white monster's head emerged from the ground and asked, "Naruto-sama, what is it?" Harry was frightened to hear the said head speak. It was creepy as hell. Naruto looked at the Zetsu clone and said, "Ah, Zetsu, I want you to impersonate Harry here for the rest of the day. I want to take him to that place." Zetsu looked at Harry and said, "Ah, so this is the savior of this world. How puny!" Harry looked the Zetsu clone very carefully and asked, "What the hell are you?" He then asked Naruto, "And how are you going to make him impersonate me? Are you going to use the Polyjuice potion?" Naruto answered, "Nope. I don't have the potion right now. And even if I did have it, I would not use it. You see, Polyjuice potion is not very reliable for impersonating others. Its effects wear off very quickly and you don't even know when it is going to happen. You have no control over it." Harry nodded in understanding. He did have the experience of Polyjuice potion. What Naruto said was true in a sense. Malfoy would have caught them if they hadn't run as soon as they knew he wasn't the heir of Slytherin. Naruto pointed to the clone and said, "You see, Harry, Zetsu have a very unique ability. They can transform into anyone they touches. They recreate everything from the body to the energy type. If he touches you, he'll transform into you and no one will be able to tell the difference." Harry's eyes widened and said, "Really? That's amazing." He then asked, confused, "But what is he actually? When you said it, you said it in plural term as if there are more of them." "That would be correct, Harry. What you are seeing right now is just a clone. There are thousands of them. They are androids, actually. I created them." Harry's eyes widened and exclaimed, "What? You created a living thing? Bloody hell." "It's a good thing that the original Zetsu attached his spores in me. The clones are coming in handy," Naruto thought. "Since I became a Jinchuriki of the Jubi, the Zetsu swore loyalty to me. I presume without the Jubi, the clones will die of lack of energy. They were originally created from the Gedo Mazo after all." Naruto I smiled at Harry and replied, "Yup." He said to Zetsu, "Now Zetsu, jet to work. We have a long day ahead." The clone replied, "Hi," and completely emerged from the ground. Harry felt a cold sensation when the Zetsu clone touched his hand. Then in front of his eyes, the clone started to transform. After a few seconds there were two Harrys standing in the room. The real Harry looked at his replica and said in amazement, "Wow, looks like me. He even replicated my wand. Brilliant!" The Zetsu Harry replied, "Yee, it's brilliant." The real one exclaimed in surprise, "Well, his voice is completely like mine." Naruto said, "What did you expect? I told you, didn't I? He can copy anyone he touches." Harry smiled embarrassed. He said, "I was just excited to see myself. I do have the experience of Polyjuice potion, but I couldn't copy Goyle's voice at all. No wonder Malfoy was suspicious." Naruto looked at the fake Harry and ordered, "I want you to stay here for the rest of the day and do what Harry usually does. We'll come back before 10 o'clock. The clone replied, "Yes, sir." Naruto nodded and looked at Harry and said, "Now let's get going. We are going to a special place where we can practice magic without interference." Then he offered his hand and said, "Take my arm, Harry." Harry confusedly asked, "Are we going to apparate? I don't think I am old enough to apparate." Naruto inwardly groaned and said, "Well, Nori, not apparating. And who in the Merlin's name told you that you're not old enough to apparate? Seriously, didn't this kid learn anything at all in the wizarding world? Does he only take advices in face value and never confirms the truth? I guess I have to educate him in everything," Naruto thought. Harry looked away and murmured, "It's Mrs. Weasley." Naruto recognized the name but said nothing. He said, "Harry, you need to see the truth for yourself. What someone told you doesn't mean it's the absolute truth. Parents always lie to their children for fearing their safety. I presume she only told you that so that you don't get splinched in trying to apparate." Harry embarrassedly said, "It's true. She did tell me about Percy's splinching of body parts." He inwardly thought, maybe I need to stop take things in face value and learn about things myself. Harry took Naruto's arm and said, "Let's go. I'm ready." Naruto exclaimed with joy, "Excellent, enjoy the ride." In the blink of an eye the duo disappeared from number 4 Private Drive with a yellow flash. The Zetsu clone sighed and said to himself, "Let's hit the road." He took the list of chores, went out of Harry's room to do what he was ordered to do and maybe scare the hell out of Harry's relatives. Whichever it is, didn't care. Unknown location. Surrounded by lush green woods, with chirping of birds and bustling with life with wild animals, the small place was rich in habitat. In the midst of the green woods, with full-grown trees thousands of meters high, there was a small cottage standing tall and proud. There was a small stream flowing nearby and a huge mountain from where the stream had originated. Suddenly there was a flash of yellow near the cottage. Out of the flash, 2 people appeared. It was Naruto and Harry looked like sick. Naruto looked at Harry and said, chuckling, "It certainly isn't a good feeling, isn't it?" Harry, struggling to stop to throw up, replied weakly, "Tell me about it." Naruto grinned and said, I was the same way when I first traveled like that. Don't worry about it. It'll go away eventually." Harry groaned and scowled at Naruto. He growled, "Why didn't you warn me about the effects?" Naruto was looking around and after hearing Harry's question answered, "Huh? Oh yeah, I forgot that he grinned stupidly and scratched his back of the head. Harry scowled and thought, "Gid, I bet he did that on purpose." Naruto stopped his grinning and said, "Anyway, let's get started." Harry looked around his surroundings. It was a very green and peaceful place. He had never seen such tall trees in his entire life. Even the whomping willow was not as tall. The chirping of birds and the sounds of the animals made the environment very peaceful. Like a melody, the forest was dancing in the ancient rhythm. Harry asked Naruto, "Where are we actually?" Naruto placed a finger on his chin and said, You see, Harry, this place is Avada Kedavra." Someone yelled the incantation of Killing Curse and a sickly green light flew through the air and struck Naruto on his back. Naruto haven't got to say his words and flew through the air like a ragdoll and collided with a tree, making a dent to it, and fell to the ground. He didn't get up anymore. Harry's eyes widened in shock and instantly froze in his place. He saw Naruto flew in the air after getting struck with the Killing Curse. He yelled in horror, "Nua!" Time seemed to slow down when he saw Naruto's dead eyes. Eyes wide in horror, he couldn't decide what to do. But his common sense came back and he immediately hid behind the cottage and looked for the intruder. He didn't need to wait for long as 3 masked Death Eaters came into view. The Death Eaters came running to the site and saw the dead body of the blonde. One of the Death Eaters said, "I was sure I saw Potter." The other one replied coldly, "Then where is he now?" "Well, look for him, idiots. The Dark Lord will punish us if we didn't bring Potter," the last one yelled in angry tone. Harry behind the cottage was listening to their arguments. He clenched his fist in anger. He couldn't do anything. His friend died in front of his face, and he just stood there watching like an idiot. He gripped his wand tightly. He thought in sorrow, "It's my fault that he died. He came to warn me about Voldemort, and now he is dead because of me. But I'll not let his sacrifice go to vain." With that thought he gripped his wand and pointed towards the nearest Death Eater and muttered, "Stupefy." His spell hit the mark and the Death Eater toppled and fell to the ground. The other 2 saw what happened to their comrade and started firing spells in Harry's direction. Harry quickly took shelter behind the cottage. He watched as many color spells were fired in his direction. Most of them were lethal and he didn't recognize any one of them. He tried to crawl towards a tree trunk behind the second Death Eater but didn't get the chance when a purple spell flew towards him. He quickly ducked and tried to hide. But the Death Eater saw him and yelled, "It's Potter. Get him." The other one tried an incantation, Avada. And oh, the other one yelled to him. "The Dark Lord wants him alive." "Crucio," he yelled. The dark red spell flew towards Harry and breezed past him. He quickly started firing back. "Petrificus Totalis," he yelled to the Death Eater in the left, and fired a stunning spell to the other. Both of them dodged the spells and fired back with dark spells. Harry again tried to hide behind the cottage, but a reductor curse struck the house and reduced it to rubble. Now he was sitting duck in front of the Death Eaters. He started running away from them and tried to gain advantage of the trees. The spells were raining down on Harry as he ran. He was very much terrified but held on to his Gryffindor courage. His adrenaline was full force as he tried to escape the Death Eaters. But the Death Eaters were relentless as they fired dark curses on Harry. Harry suddenly span around and yelled, "Expelliarmus!" The disarming charm flew towards the first Death Eater and struck. His wand flew from his hand and collided with a tree branch, breaking it half. He himself flew through the air and collided with a tree. As Harry was firing the disarming spell to the Death Eater, he didn't notice the other fire a dark purple spell towards him. He only saw the first Death Eater flew when the purple spell came into his focus. But he couldn't dodge the spell as it was too close, and it struck on his chest. The only thought he had just before the spell hit him were, "I'm sorry. I failed you all." His eyes lost focus and immediately fell into the slumber of unconsciousness. Harry groaned after coming back to his senses. How long he had been unconscious he didn't know. He slowly opened his eyes. He had thought that after the spell hit him, he would wake up in a dark cell. What he didn't expect was to wake up in the same surrounding. He felt confused. Why the Death Eaters didn't bring him back to their master? "It seems you are awake," said a very familiar voice. Harry's eyes widened in shock and jumped on his feet. He quickly spotted the owner of the voice and pointed with a shaky finger. "What? But how?" The spiky-haired whiskered man chuckled and said, "How indeed?" Harry's eyes wide asked accusingly, But I don't understand. I saw you die in front of my eyes. How can you be alive, and the Death Eaters?" With panic in his eyes he searched for the masked Death Eaters. To his surprise there was no one there except for them. "What happened to them?" he murmured to himself. Naruto smiled and said to Harry, "Relax, Harry. Sit down beside me, I'll explain everything to you." Harry, still confused, replied, What is there to explain?" Suddenly his eyes widened in understanding and growled accusingly, "It was your doing, isn't it, you bastard?" He ran towards Naruto and tried to punch him. But Naruto lazily caught the punch and kneed Harry on his stomach and slammed him onto the ground. Harry groaned in pain and grabbed his stomach. Naruto then sat down on Harry's back and said, "Are you ready to listen to me right now?" Harry, still in pain, slowly replied, "Okay, I'll listen." Naruto grinned and nodded approvingly, "Good lad." He got off Harry's back and sat down. Harry painfully got up and sat down beside Naruto. The blonde smiled merrily and said, "Now time for explanations. You see, Harry, the place we are right now, nobody can find it. It's a place only I know." Harry looked around and asked confusedly, "What do you mean?" Naruto answered, "It's just as I said. It's a place only I know or my family knows. Since I'm the only member of my family left, this place belongs to me. And as for the Death Eaters, it was just a test to speculate your skills. My dead body was just a dummy and the Death Eaters were disguised Zetsu clones." Naruto evaluated. "I thought as much," Harry thought. Harry was curious of his performance. He eagerly waited for Naruto to say something. Naruto opened his mouth and said, "It was terrible, Harry. You did terrible." Harry's mouth fell in shock. He clenched his fist. Naruto again said, "You didn't use any lethal spells. The Death Eaters killed your friend and you didn't even retaliate with full force. You just ran around firing common spells. Your reaction time is off and you didn't even think of a plan before striking. You know the Zetsu clones are the weakest bunch you could find. You should have been able to defeat them." Harry looked away in disappointment. He was ashamed of himself. Naruto clapped his hand and looked towards Harry and said, smiling, "Don't be too hard on yourself, Harry. That's why we are here, aren't we?" Harry looked at Naruto confusingly. Naruto said, "We are here to train, aren't we? I am going to teach you everything there is to know." Harry brightened up and replied, "Yeah, you are right. Even though I lost this time, next time I'm going to win for sure." Naruto smiled brightly and said, "That's more like it. Now, first things first. Harry, I want to ask you, how do you think a person can become magically powerful? Naruto asked, standing up. Harry also stood up and pondered the question. Don't know. You don't know? Well, first thing is that if you want to become magically powerful, you need to be physically fit first. With your scrawny body, I doubt you can even lift a finger against Voldemort. Naruto answered. What? Harry asked. I mean literally, if you are physically fit first, then only we can go for the magical training. That's what we are going to do first. Physical conditioning, he smiled evilly. Harry, seeing the look on Naruto's face, backed away slightly. Naruto pulled something from his pocket. It was a knife and he threw it on Harry's feet. Seeing Harry's questioning look, Naruto answered, Pick it up. I want to know your endurance. So the first training starts now. I want you to survive in this forest alone for 1 month. It will toughen you up, Naruto ordered emotionlessly. Eyes wide, Harry yelled in horror, What? You must be joking. Naruto just said, I'm not joking. Whether you like it or not, I'm going to leave you alone here. I'll pick you up in 1 month. Wait. Oh, watch out for poisonous snakes, flesh-eating bugs, carnivorous plants. The woods can make you experience your worst nightmares. Wait. A piece of advice, Harry. Don't die. Naruto I smiled to Harry and did his hand seals. Hiraishin no Jutsu, Flying Thunder God technique. He murmured and instantly vanished with a yellow flash. Wait, but Harry was too late to stop him. How in the Merlin's name I'm going to survive here for 1 month, he murmured to himself. He sighed in unfairness of this. He was going to die here for sure. He hadn't had the basic knowledge of survival in the outside world. This time nobody would come for help. He slapped his forehead in frustration. Suddenly there was a growl behind him. He quickly span around in shock. In front of him, there stood a huge tiger ready to prance at him. He immediately took his wand and yelled, Stupefy. He had thought to stun the tiger in his place, but what he didn't expect the tiger to get angrier. He bellowed in horror, oh no. The tiger howled and launched itself to him to attack. He hightailed away to escape the tiger. What the bloody hell am I going to do now? He yelled as he ran. A different kind of training indeed. Chapter 4. The stage to be set. Flashback. Well, what do you think? Asked the younger blonde, gesturing to the other. The older blonde man looked around the place a bit. He observed his surroundings with keen eyes and found no trace of any wrong. It's amazing. Did you really created this? He asked the younger man, amazed. Of course I am very proud of myself, the younger one boasted. The sunlight from the mighty sun slowly fell towards the two blondes who were standing in between tall trees and lush green woods. The older one had deep ocean blue eyes with long spiky hair with long bangs and wearing standard Konoha Jounin uniform with a white haori over it. He was none other than Konoha's yellow flash Namikaze Minato. The younger one had deep cerulean blue eyes with same hairstyle as the Minato, and also wearing same clothes. But his haori was red in color. He was Namikaze Uzumaki Naruto. You are coming along nicely of the mastering this complex art, Naruto. What you did here is nothing sort of impossible, Minato exclaimed in wonder. How is it even possible to create something like this? No matter what abilities you possess, it's still mind-boggling to think. You understand this, Naruto? No one had mastered this to this extent. Not even Obito. How did you do it? Minato asked, still surprised. Naruto closed his eyes and thought for a minute. He took a very deep breath and opened his eyes wide with the familiar ripple pattern of the Rinnegan. Minato looked at the eyes with wonder. No matter how many times he looked at it, he still shuddered just by looking at those eyes. Dad, what you are saying is true in a sense, but you are forgetting one crucial thing. So I ask you this, what comes to your mind when you think about special techniques of the Rikudo Sennin? Minato wondered for the answer. He knew about the legendary Rikudo Sennin, of course. Who didn't? But not everybody knew the whole truth about that godlike being. He looked around for a bit and tried to come up with an answer. He knew whatever Naruto had created was based on technique of the Sennin. Suddenly he looked at Naruto with wide eyes and said, You can't possibly mean that, are you? Naruto smirked at little. No wonder people get surprised by the impossible things Rinnegan eyes can do. Yes, I'm talking about that. The power to create anything, I imagine. The power of the Banbutsu Sozo, creation of all things, Naruto replied. You do know that the Rikudo Sennin used Banbutsu Sozo to create the 9 bijus from the chakra of the Jubi, right? Naruto asked. He then said, I have a theory, Percy. I think that his two sons were not his biological heirs. I believe he created them with Banbutsu Sozo. Otherwise he wouldn't have able to divide his powers equally to his sons. The Uchiha stone tablet did say about a god being divided in two halves after all. When the two halves join together, then only true peace can be achieved, Naruto speculated. Minato sighed. He never understood Naruto's obsession with Rikuta Sannin. Why did he want to follow the same path as the Sannin did? He never knew. Oh well, whatever. He looked around and said, yes, well, I had forgotten the little tricks Obito did when he became a Jinchuriki of the Jubi. The power of Onmyodan, the way of yin and yang, was quite scary. After all, Banbutsu Sozo was a technique based on Onmyodan, did it not? Naruto answered, yes, that's right. Rikuta Sannin and Obito were able to use Onmyodan because of the Jubi and combined power with the Rinnegan. Well, you know, the end result was the 9 Bijus. Shikaku, Matatabi, Isabu, Son Goku, Koko, Saiken, Chome, Gyuki and Kurama. He opened his hand and there was a sphere of black stuff. The shape-shifting black matter instantly transformed to a long stick. He examined the stick and looked at Minato's eyes and exclaimed, and now that power belongs to me. I carry the will of the Sannin, and I don't intend to fail in the quest for peace. What you are looking here is the small fraction of what my powers can do. I merely tested out my limits of the Onmyodan, Naruto said, gesturing to his surroundings. I created this whole place just to test out that limit. You know what the problem of creating such things, right? He asked his father. Minato stroked his chin and after thinking for a while he said, yeah, you can't create it in the real world. So that's why you brought me here. I was wondering what you were doing, but I have never thought that you made an entire new dimension just by using Banbutsu Sozo and Jikuken Ninjutsu, space-time technique. Naruto chuckled at his father. He said, yes, well, this is merely just for my amusement. It's merely just a pocket dimension, just as Obito used for his Kamui technique. Look up there and you can see that I even created a fake sun. Minato looked at the sun and said, it's marvelous. I didn't even recognize that the place is brimming with sunlight. I completely forgot that a pocket dimension never has a light source. They are completely pitch black. The younger blonde looked at the cottage that was present at the middle of the woods and walked towards it. Minato wondered what Naruto was doing but just followed him. Naruto stopped in front of the cottage and kneeled down. He searched for something and after a while he found what he was looking for. He stood up and Minato noticed something in his hand. It was a little squirrel. Minato gave Naruto a questioning look. Naruto grinned and said, I just wanted to show you the marvel of Banbutsu Sozo. See this squirrel? Minato looked at it. This is also a creation of my technique. Every living thing here from that bird to little crickets are my creation. Obviously the forest was made by the Mokuton, wood element, those mountains are of my Doton, earth element, and the rivers are from my Sueton, water element, technique. Naruto said. Minato shuddered and said, just how powerful are you actually, Naruto? Not even Hashirama could create such a forest just by Mokuton ninjutsu. You are forgetting one thing, Dad. The Jubi is sealed in me. I don't have to worry about how much chakra I can use for a technique. The Jubi gives me infinite supply of chakra. After all, it is the progenitor of our world, Naruto said. Minato sighed and said, my mind is going to break, Naruto, if you show me more. My head feels heavy just by looking around this place, and when you are explaining things to me I completely forget the basic things. This is so amazing that I feel like I'm floating in heaven. Let's just stop our tour for now, Naruto. It's getting late and I have paperwork to do. I'm the Hokage after all, Minato suggested. And just for the record, you have long surpassed me and anyone who ever born in our world. I believe you have already achieved what Rikuta Sannin wanted to do. Naruto looked at the small stream that was flowing some distance from the cottage and said to his father, I don't think the small alliance with the villages is going to last forever. Human heart never remains the same always. Sooner or later that peace is going to be ruined by somebody. I'm still in search for what Erosenin believes in. Oh well, let's go home. Oh yeah, I forgot to tell you, Dad, I'll be coming to your house tonight with Hinako. Make sure you tell Mom to prepare ramen. After all, she invited us in the first place, Naruto said with playful manner, slightly punching Minato in his shoulder. He then suddenly vanished from sight. Minato sighed and muttered to himself, that boy, why does he always treat me like an old man? I'm not even 30. He did a hand seal and vanished with a yellow flash. Flashback end. Hogsmeade. The village of Hogsmeade at the time of vacations was not very active, since children from Hogwarts often came down to the village for explorations and have some fun at the time of the term. It was summer, and it was very hot there. The shops in the village were mostly closed and people were not in the mood to buy any new junks. The zonkos, honeydukes, dervish and banjas and others were also closed for most of the summertime. The only shop still served was the small pub named Three Broomsticks. People still wanted refreshments from their long travels and usually needed a place for drinks and rest. So the pub was open for most of the summer. The front door of the cozy pub opened and a person strolled in. The pub was empty. Usually, the residents of the village came for drinks after their long day work in the afternoons. It was noon, and so nobody was inside the pub. The pub owner looked at the person and immediately stopped whatever she was doing. "Welcome to the Three Broomsticks. What may I serve you?" she said with a smile. The person sat down on a table and looked towards the woman and said, "A home butter beer and fire whiskey please, and a small refreshment would do." The woman took the order and said, "Please wait for a few minutes. Your order will be served shortly." The man said, "All right." The man sighed and took a book and started reading it. After a few minutes, the woman placed his food on his table. It consisted of a few snacks, bread, fire whiskey, and a butterbeer. The man looked up from his reading and looked at his order. He put away his book and said, "Thanks, madam, pardon my rudeness, what was your name again?" The woman gasped and giggled a little. She looked at him and saw that he was a quite handsome fellow. She smirked and replied with flirting manner, "My, you are a charming young man. I haven't actually mentioned my name. I'm the owner of this place, as you can see. I'm Rosmerta." The man smiled sleepishly and said, "Thanks, Madam Rosmerta. I'm Naruto Namikaze." Madam Rosmerta giggled again and said, "That's a quite uncommon name. Tell me, young man, are you by the day a foreign wizard? I haven't seen you before here and your accent is quite different." Naruto chuckled and replied, "You are a very observing person, madam. You are correct, actually I'm from Japan and currently traveling," and took a sip of butterbeer. Really? I'm sensing quite an adventure there. You've come to see Hogwarts, haven't you?" Madam Rosmerta asked. Naruto replied, "Obviously, what other places are here for sightseeing other than the magnificent castle of Hogwarts? Though I am here for a different reason altogether. She doesn't need to know that," he inwardly thought. The middle-aged woman chuckled, "I tend to be obvious, aren't I? Well, I'm sure you'll enjoy Hogwarts and the surrounding place. It's very beautiful." "Sure, madam. I've always wanted to come to Hogwarts, but for personal reasons I couldn't come. I would have loved to study in the Hogwarts," he lied. The woman smiled sadly and said, "Sorry to hear that, but you came here to visit it, no, isn't it?" The woman laughed out loud and said, "You are a funny young man. Oh my, I'm taking your time here, aren't I? Sorry, you might be in a hurry, so I'll leave you to yourself. You need anything, then call me. All right?" Naruto replied with a cheering manner, "Okay." With that, Madame Rosmerta went down to do whatever she was previously doing and Naruto dig into his food. Number 12, Grimmauld Place. "Now we commence our meeting," said the elderly man with long white beard. People inside the small meeting room sat down all together and listened to the older man. They looked towards him expectantly. He was none other than the current headmaster of Hogwarts, Albus Percival Wulfric Brian Dumbledore. "Now first we'll go to the matter most important. I have sent Hagrid and Olymp to confront the giants. It is imperative that the giants do not join Voldemort," Dumbledore said. "What about Remus?" asked the man with the long messy black hair. "I haven't seen him for a while." Dumbledore looked towards the middle-aged man and said, "Don't worry, Sirius, my boy. I've sent him to persuade the werewolves to join our side." "What?" Sirius exclaimed, eyes wide. "Are you out of your mind? What if they don't listen to him and attack him? What if Greyback is there?" Dumbledore waved his arm and said, "Everything is under control. Don't worry about it. He is just a messenger, they will not attack him. Greyback wouldn't dare to attack a fellow werewolf in front of others. It would mean that he lose favor from them." Still not convinced, Sirius wanted to say something, but he remained silent. He was sure Remus wouldn't come back from the pack of werewolves unscathed. "Now the second matter at hand, what of the news about the Auror Department, Kingsley?" Dumbledore asked, looking at the black man. The head Auror of the Auror Department replied, "They remained the same, Albus. Cornelius isn't funding the Auror Department, and we are facing a huge problem of training new recruits." Dumbledore sighed and replied, "Alas, I cannot do anything about that, Kingsley. I've tried many times to reason with Cornelius, but he refused to believe me. Now he is in campaign of removing me from the position of Chief Warlock. He needs a big but whopping." "That pig," Nymphadora Tonks said from the other end of the table. "I mean, he is as corrupt as the goblins. All the money that should have been for the department goes to his own pocket. There is only a handful of things Madame Bones can do with limited supplies," she said. Maybe I shouldn't have left the department. Things were never this complicated in my days, Alastair Moody growled. Alistair, no, as I know that Cornelius is refusing to believe Voldemort's return. Dumbledore said. He refused to raise the fund as he thinks it's not necessary in the time of peace. He now thinks that I am scheming something to usurp his seat for myself, and young Harry is paying the price for it. That poor boy. Speaking of Harry, when are you going to let him come here, Albus? Molly Weasley asked. Now, Molly, don't be hasty. We must be vigilant. He still needs to stay there at least few days for the wards to strengthen. How are the children accommodating here, Molly? Dumbledore asked. They are fine. Ronald is still being lazy, but I've ordered them to clean up the house. It's better than doing nothing. The house reeks of dirt, she said. Oh, Hermione is due to come sometime today, isn't it? She asked. Miss Granger, smart girl. Yes, I've talked with her parents, and persuaded them to send their daughter here. This is one of the safest places besides Hogwarts and Gringotts now. She may be targeted by the Death Eaters because of her Muggle heritage, Dumbledore replied. Now let's discuss some important matters. Arthur, did you have any success in the Department of Mysteries? Arthur Weasley sighed and replied, No, Albus. It's quite difficult to scoop around the department. It's heavily guarded. Maybe we should try a different approach. I'm sure you will be successful, Arthur. There is no need to rush. Voldemort is yet to. Suddenly there was a knock on the door. The door opened and a man came inside. The man was wearing black cloths with a greasy hairstyle and walked forward like a bat. He was none other than Severus Snape. Sirius Black scowled, looking at the man. Snape looked at him and muttered, Mutt. Sirius heard him and growled, Snivelus. Severus, serious enough, you two stop acting like children, Dumbledore ordered. Now, Severus, what news you bring from the Dark Lord? Severus Snape took a seat near Dumbledore and said slowly, The Dark Lord is lying low for now. He doesn't want the public to know of his return. He is mainly focusing on gathering as much follower as possible. Well, it is to be expected. That's the first rule of warfare. We must also stay alert in case Voldemort does something. Anything else, Severus? Dumbledore asked. No, Headmaster, the Dark Lord only needs my presence for his strength potions. So I'm not in the meetings as well as I've liked. But I found that he is interested in the thing in the Department of Mysteries, Snape replied. Now that is a real problem. We mustn't let him get his hand on that. It would mean a disastrous end for us. Arthur, I want you to increase your effort in the Department of Mysteries, Dumbledore said, frowning. Arthur Weasley replied, All right, Albus, I'll try my best. Dumbledore then looked at Mad-Eye Moody and Nymphadora Tonks and said, Today is your shift, isn't it, Alastair? Nymphadora? Tonks growled, Don't call me Nymphadora. Severus Snape sneered, So the Potter brat needs a bodyguard to babysit him. How impudent! Dumbledore looked at Severus and said, Now, Severus, don't be so hasty. We need Harry for this war. Snape growled, I don't know why you keep on insisting that, Headmaster. There is no way that arrogant brat can win against the Dark Lord. He is lazy, reckless, with no measurable talent, and a typical Gryffindor. Just like his father. Dumbledore sighed. Sirius Black growled from his seat, What did you say? Care to repeat that, Snivelus? Enough bickering, you two, Dumbledore calmly said, This meeting is adjourned. Everyone go to your designated posts. You are dismissed. Dumbledore stood up and went out from the room with Snape following behind. Everyone emptied the room except for Sirius Black. The messy-haired dog Animagus sighed and went to his room and started thinking. He was trapped in the house, there was no doubt about it. He also wanted to do some productive work, but Dumbledore had forbidden him to go out of the house. He was still a criminal in the eyes of Ministry, so he had to remain in the house. He was so lost in thought that he had no recollection of what happening in the room. So he suddenly jumped in surprise when he heard a burning sound. To his shock, a golden flash occurred in front of him, and from the flash something came out. The thing fell down on the floor. Sirius slowly looked towards the object on the floor. It was a small parchment. He picked it up and examined it. It was a small letter. He read out loud. To Sirius Orion Black. If you want to truly help your godson, then come to the house where everything started. The house that destroyed by the Dark Lord in Godric's Hollow. Come alone and don't tell anyone about this. If you do, I'll instantly know and obliviate you. Come at 10 p.m. coming Thursday. G.O.F. Sirius Black reread the letter 4 times and slowly sat down. What did the letter mean? What does the G.O.F. stand for? He thought, should I go? It might be a trick to lure me out. But it spoke of Harry. I have to go without telling anyone. What does it mean? There is a third party in this war. If it does, then it'll change the whole outcome of this war. What am I getting myself into? He yelped when suddenly the letter burst into flames. He threw it away. The letter slowly burned away and turned into ash. Sirius shook his head, clear his thoughts. He sighed and went to the kitchen to eat something. He was feeling hungry. Unknown location. Remus Lupin cursed his luck. He had done what Dumbledore had told him to do. He informed the werewolves the proximity of their joining the forces of Voldemort again, but the moment was ruined by that blasted Fenrir Greyback. When he was just about to announce the werewolves not to join Voldemort, Greyback had the brilliant idea to threaten the colony with war. He blatantly announced that if they don't join the Dark Lord, he would destroy the werewolves. The werewolves didn't like what Greyback said and instantly attacked. The werewolves from the colony and the ones from Greyback's side started fighting each other. Remus barely escaped from the carnage that was taking place in the werewolf lair. He carefully snooped away from the carnage and escaped, although he was not unscathed. He got injured in his right hand. It was bleeding profusely. Since he was a werewolf, he had greater healing factor than normal humans. So, he didn't think about the wound that much. It would heal on its own. But the problem was that he didn't get the chance to recruit any werewolf to fight Voldemort. He had missed his chance. Now what would he tell to the headmaster? He cursed Greyback profusely. What a day, he sighed. Suddenly he jumped up when a bright flash of light appeared before his eyes. From the flash of light, a parchment appeared and fell on the ground. Remus Lupin picked it up and started reading. To Remus John Lupin. If you want to know the truth of that night, then come to the house where everything started. The house that destroyed by the Dark Lord in Godric's Hollow. Come alone and don't tell anyone about this. If you do, I'll instantly know and obliviate you. Come at 10 p.m. coming Thursday. G.O.F. What is this? Is this some kind of trick? What nonsense is this? Who is this G.O.F.? What does it stand for? Is it Goblet of Fire? No, that's not it. I want to know what this is about. Okay, I'll go and see for myself if it is some kind of joke or not. Remus thought about it and returned to London with a crack of apparition. The parchment burst into flames. With Harry. Harry Potter wasn't having a very good time. As soon as Naruto left him in that god-forsaken place, he was immediately attacked by a freaking tiger. He barely escaped the tiger's wrath by hiding behind a bunch of big trees. On top of that, the weather took amusement when it started raining heavily. It was raining the whole day, and after came the flood. He barely managed to survive when the flood nearly got into him. The current pushed him towards a large hill where he got hold of a big branch and climbed up. He was hungry, and on top of that he was freezing. He used his knife to cut off some branches and twigs so that he could make a tent. Hermione had explained him how to make tents with branches and twigs. Her family often went to picnics after all. He tried doing that. After a few trials and errors, he made a decent tent. He got his wand, so he made sure to make a fire to keep him warm. He slept that night without eating anything. He was too tired to search for food. The next morning was one of the worst mornings he ever had. After waking up, he vomited and was too tired to move a muscle. But his luck wasn't so bad yet. He then noticed some fruits hanging on the tree where he had taken refuge the other night. With his wand he summoned the fruits and ate them. Immediately he ate them, he found his strength returning. It was odd. He felt fine just after eating those fruits. It was strange. But he didn't think it much. Harry lost count how many days passed, but he had endured as much as possible in the forest alone. He survived the bite of honey bees after he tried stealing some honey. He survived the poison of the poisonous plants, even survived a hurricane. But whenever he lost consciousness and even close to dying, he always felt fine the next day. It was strange. At present Harry was not having a very good day. He woke up with a splitting headache, and he had a nightmare the other night. Because of the headache, he forgot to eat the fruit and proceeded to explore the forest. It was a mistake. He got completely lost on the way. He escaped 2 tigers that were fighting each other for a dead stag. He had gotten scratched trying to escape them. He was hungry and the headache was getting worse. He tried eating some small fruits figuring it would be the same, but it had the opposite result. His stomach was not feeling well and he even had to vomit 2 or 3 times. Eating those fruits was a mistake. Now he was paying the price for it. But that was the least of the problems. His current predicament made those a nuisance. Stood in front of him 3 huge beasts he had never seen. The beasts were at least as tall as the Hogwarts Great Hall and were giving a very powerful bursts of energies. His eyes widened as he looked at the three beasts and exclaimed in shock, "Shit!" Number 4 Private Drive. Alastair Moody was bored out of his mind. He didn't know what he did to deserve this, but he was not amused. He was a retired Auror, and now he was keeping watch of a boy barely in his teens for whatever reason unknown. Why did he volunteer to join the Order again? Oh, that's right. That freaking Voldemort had arisen again. His magical eyes was swirling as he kept on looking for any differences. His young protege Nymphadora Tonks was nowhere to be seen. He snorted. He noticed that the boy had done nothing but staying under the flower bed just below the window the whole day. He even noticed that Mundungus Fletcher came by and disapparated from a Muggle neighborhood. What an idiot! The whole day he kept a lookout for any sign of any Death Eaters. He found nothing, and hence so he was bored the whole day. Nymphadora Tonks sat beside him as he was looking at the house of Disley. She asked, "Anything strange?" Moody grunted. Nothing as usual. The brat had just left that flower bed. He pointed to the flower bed under the window. Tonks looked and said, "Why was he there? It doesn't seem very comfortable." The bloody boy was trying to listen to the news as usual, but with a different manner, Moody said. "You got that right. He always tries to listen to any news of death or destruction, but can't find anything." "The poor bloke," Tonks said. "Well, there has been news of people's disappearances, but Daily Prophet doesn't publish them. The ministry is trying to hide them," Moody growled. "Yeah, I've noticed that. Madam Bones and getting suspicious," Tonks explained. "It's to be expected," Moody said as his eyes started swirling. "It's your shift now. I'm going," he said to Tonks. He stood up and was ready to leave. Tonks sighed and also stood up. She said, "I'm gonna take the roof. It will be easier to look around." Moody grunted, "Do whatever you want." Tonks clumsily put on her invisibility cloak and took off. Moody snorted and was about to leave. Suddenly a flash of light appeared before him. A parchment fell down. Moody's eyes swirled and tried to detect any harmful charms, but there were none. He carefully picked up the parchment and started reading the letter. To Alastair Mad-Eye Moody. If you want to know the truth of that night, then come to the house where everything started. The house that destroyed by the Dark Lord in Godric's Hollow. Come alone and don't tell anyone about this. If you do, I'll instantly know and obliviate you. Come at 10 p.m. coming Thursday. G.O.F. Alastair Moody growled, "The nerve of some punk." Humph, he threw the parchment away and disapparated. Gringotts. "That is essentially a very good news indeed," said Ragnar III to his subordinate Gilbertoth. After Naruto had left Gringotts Bank, the little goblin didn't immediately go to their leader to inform. The amount of money Naruto deposited in the bank was astonishing. It was in the same league of the wealth of ancient and most noble houses or wealthy bastards like Malfoy's. So, he tried to gather information about his customer. After what he found, he was surprised to say would be an understatement. It was mind-boggling. So after 2 days, he went to inform his master Ragnar. "Tell me again, Gilbertoth, what do you know about this mysterious wizard?" Ragnar asked in gobbledygook. "Master, I haven't got the whole information about him, but I was able to sneak a peek into the ministry records. According to their information, this Naruto guy is pretty high in the Japanese ministry. He is one of the highest-ranking official and the youngest to boot. Only 19 years old." "Impressive," Ragnar muttered. "Anything else?" "Yes, master, he was born in the most prominent family in Japan. The Namikaze family, the ancient and most noble equivalent to Britain. His father was a famous inventor when he was alive, and his mother died of childbirth. His blood is as pure as it gets, a long family history dated to the Merlin himself," Gilbertoth explained. "It seems you did your homework, Gilbertoth," Ragnar said with a toothy grin. "Ah, thank you, master. It is my duty to know about my customers, and a valuable one to boot. His deposition here is most likely going to enrich our bank. It is a revolution not seen from the deposition of the Potter family," Gilbertoth said with pleased grin. Ragnar put his hand on his pointy chin and said with a thoughtful face, "Indeed your claim has merits. Speaking of Potter family, has young Harry replied to the requests we have sent him?" Gilbertoth shook his head and replied, "No, master, we are facing a block in contacting him. Our owls have returned without delivering the posts. And I'm not sure I'm the right person to ask about the Potter accounts, master. Griphook is the one who led young Harry to his trust vault." "Yes, I am well aware of that," Ragnar replied. "Very well, I'll talk with Griphook about that. You keep me posted in any changes in the Namikaze account." "Yes, master, I intend to do that," Gilbertoth replied. "Oh, Gilbertoth, tell Mr. Weasley to meet me in my chamber. He is inside the building right now, Ragnar III ordered. Yes, master, Gilbertoth replied and set course to his own office. He exited the office and thought in glee, yes, no one's going to stop my promotion. It seems this new customer will make me rich beyond word. It seems no matter what or how nice a goblin can be seen outside, but in the inside they are greedy beyond words. With Bill Weasley. The life of the curse breaker was not bad for the Weasley young man. The goblins didn't bother him much, and he pretty much worked with his human colleagues, so there was little interaction with the goblins. The only time he talked with a goblin when he was needed to give monthly job reports to the Gringotts head goblin. The previous week he met a pretty French part Vila as a colleague. He was surprised to see one of the Triwizard champion working for the goblins, in Britain nonetheless. Fleur Delacour was a charming young Vila just for the record. He was smitten at the very first sight. He knew the prejudices against Vilas or any other non-human creatures and understood that it was very hard for her to get job in the ministry. Britain or France, the prejudices against them were present everywhere. Even if she was a Triwizard champion, she was still seen as inferior to normal wizards. A prime example was that Umbridge woman. That dreadful woman had tried to prosecute the werewolves for them being half-breeds. How he hated that woman. Well, so Ragnar wants to see Mew had a coincidence. I just happened to enter the Order of the Phoenix and Dumbledore told me snoop around the bank for information and the head goblin calls for me. I hope I'm not found out. That would be very bad, Bill Weasley thought. He was not fond of the head goblin very much. It wasn't that he was paid less, Nun's salary for Cursebreaker was good, but he wasn't fond of the attitude of the head goblin. Oh, goblins were a greedy bunch no doubt, but the head goblin took that word to a new level. Bill stood in front of the door of the office and knocked 3 times. Ragnar ordered him to enter the office. Bill opened the door and after closing it addressed Ragnar, Master Goblin, how may I assist you? Ah, Mr. Weasley, come have a seat, Ragnar said. Bill took a seat. Ragnar began, well, I'll go straight to the point then. Tell me, Mr. Weasley, what do you know about a young Japanese wizard named Naruto Namikaze? Bill blinked and asked in wonder, Master Goblin, why are you asking me this? Is it related to my curse breaking or something else? Ragnar shook his head, no, it's not related to curse breaking. Well, the truth is that Wizard had opened a bank account in our branch 2 days ago, and he deposited a lot of money. The amount of money he deposited took me by surprise. It was in the level of the ancient and most nobles' houses. This amount of deposition we haven't seen in centuries. Bill was surprised to hear that. He thought for a second and asked, is there a Gringotts branch in Japan? Ragnar said, the problem lies there. We do have a Japanese branch, but we have little contact with them. We tried to reach them but they refused to give information about him, telling me that it was confidential. I don't understand, what's so special about him that our own can refuse to cooperate? I'm the head goblin, but they even defied me. Bill's eyes widened further after hearing that. The goblins of Japan were refusing to give information to the head. This was a surprising turn of events. He put his hand on his chin and asked, Master Goblin, I am surprised to hear that. But why ask me about him? I have little to no contact with Japanese wizards and my job requires me to be constantly away from home. I'm well aware of that. But that is why I've asked you about him. You are constantly away for curse breaking, so I thought you might hear some rumors, Ragnar said. Well, I haven't heard anything regarding any Japanese wizard in my travels. But what you've said is very surprising. It is a matter to look into. So, Master Goblin, do you want me to acquire information about him? Bill asked. Ragnar thought for a second and said, well, you have my permission to snoop around for information about him. I've already ordered Gilbertoth. Well, Mr. Weasley, I must bid you farewell for now. I have much work to do, Ragnar said. Bill stood up and said, all right, Master Goblin, I'll be snooping around for information then. He left the goblin office in deep thought. This is very surprising news indeed. It is good thing I came here today. He was too deep in thought, and nearly jumped when a letter burst into existence in front of him. He looked around and noticed that the hallway was empty. He carefully picked up the letter after examining any harmful curses and read. To William Arthur Weasley. I have information that you might be interested about. I know you are a part of Dumbledore's Order of the Phoenix. I have no problem with that. If you want to know the truth of that night, then come to the house where everything started. The house that destroyed by the Dark Lord in Godric's Hollow. Come alone and don't tell anyone about this. If you do, I'll instantly know and obliviate you. Come at 10 p.m. coming Thursday. G.O.F. After reading the letter 2 times, Bill thought, why do I feel like déjà vu? What is this G.O.F.? Is this some kind of new third-party faction? I must be out of my mind if I'm seriously considering going. It might even be a trap. But according to the letter, whoever wrote it might give me some information. He let go of the letter when it grew hot. In front of him, the letter burst into flames and instantly turned to dust. Looking at the vanished remains of the strange letter, he thought, come to think of it, how was the writer able to send the letter without an owl? The letter even got past the goblin wards of Gringotts. How can someone do that? Even Dumbledore isn't capable of this kind of magic. With his mind heavy in thought, William Weasley, the firstborn of Arthur Weasley, strolled out of Gringotts Bank back to his home. With Harry. What kind of monsters are those? Harry Potter muttered, watching the three with wide eyes. When he encountered the beasts, he immediately hid after a large tree trunk. Thankfully, the three beasts had not seen him yet, as they were growling to each other. After watching for a few minutes, Harry recalled few characteristics of the three beasts. The first beast had two lion-like heads and a tail with a snake head. One of the head was emitting slime-like thing from its mouth, and the other head was bursting out some kind flammable thing. It was a chimera. This is the first time I've seen a chimera, Harry muttered. He felt secured behind the tree trunk, and he was very thankful that the beasts were in their own world. The second beast he had immediately recognized. After all, he encountered one of its kinds in his first year. He had already met Hagrid's Cerberus Fluffy. But the one in front of him was much bigger than Fluffy. This one was ferocious and was growling towards the chimera as if the chimera had stolen its food. The third one he didn't recognize. This one was also very dangerous looking. It looked kind of like a tiger. But a huge tiger. Its whole body was covered with strips and two huge knife-like teeth were outside its mouth. It could be either a saber-tooth or some other kind of animal, Harry mused. After some time, he suddenly realized that he was in serious predicament. The three beasts were circling each other, ready to prance to each other. If that were to happen, he would be in the middle of the crossfire, and he didn't think he could escape them. If they realized that he was there, he would be torn to shreds and be eaten like a chicken. The problem was he couldn't escape now, even if he tried. The slightest movement from his part would alert the beasts, as he knew their senses were sharp unlike a human. What should he do? How he wished he had learned to apparate. Meanwhile, his splitting headache was about to kill him. On top of that, he was hungry. He was considering every type of plan to go away from his position, but he couldn't come up with a decent plan. He was so lost in thought that he nearly missed a huge tree flying towards him. His eyes widened looking at the flying tree. He ducked and the tree flew past his head, nearly missing him in an inch, and the tree collided with other trees. He crossed his hand in front of him to protect himself, when a large knoll of debris and some twigs flew towards him when the tree collided along with a huge shockwave. When it settled down, he started running. His hands were bleeding after got hit by some twigs, but he didn't acknowledge it as he was more concerned with getting away with his life. Shit, now what? He furiously thought as he looked behind. He saw that three were in a battle of dominance. They were rumbling, making the earth shake, and no one was about to go down. Their ferocity of battle intensified as more and more of the forest got destroyed. Thankfully, he was slightly more distance away from the battlefield. But he didn't stop, he ran. His grip on his wand tightened as he prayed to get away from that alive. He ducked, jumped, and went on to some basic maneuvers to protect himself from further injuries. Though he was slight distance away, but the battle was so ferocious that some stray debris would fly towards him at high speeds. Suddenly a huge shockwave blew past him. He instantly lost his balance and fell towards a stream. He rolled and collided with the water of the stream. He groaned and painfully got up, gripping his wand tightly. He was bleeding from head to toe, and he was on the verge of losing consciousness. He panted and coughed. All of a sudden, one of the three beasts landed roughly in front of him. A large amount of water and rocks rose few meters above the ground. Harry flew away in the shockwave and collided with the ground. He momentarily lost his consciousness but immediately woke up. On instinct, he shouted, pointing his wand towards the beast. Stupefy. The white-colored spell flew away from his wand and hit the beast. The power of the spell was so great that the huge beast, after got hit by the spell, immediately flew away few meters, destroying a lot of trees. Harry's eyes widened seeing the beast flying away from his spell fire. After the dust cloud cleared, he saw that the beast was stunned. It was out cold. Harry's eyes widened further as a simple spell like stunning spell worked against the beast. He sighed in relief and slowly got up. He shakily tried to walk away from there but suddenly found himself airborne. He flew upwards and started falling. He watched the large forest downwards, and the cold wind that was blowing across his face made him think, well, this is it, this is as far as I go. He closed his eyes for the blow that was about to come. Few seconds later, he opened his eyes wide as he didn't feel the death blow. He immediately noticed tightness around his belly. He looked around as the world was spinning too fast for him. He coughed up blood and his eyes started spinning. He tried to see what was going on. So he steeled himself and forced himself to look. At one time, the spinning stopped, and when looked properly, he immediately came face to face with the head of a snake hissing towards him. He could understand what the snake was hissing, but he was too unfocused to listen what the snake was saying. He knew that the chimera had gotten him, and its tail was tangled around him in a tight grip. He somehow freed his right hand from the tail and gripped his wand tightly. He immediately fired another stunner to the chimera, thinking it would work. Since it worked against the other one, there's no way it wouldn't work on this one. But he was sadly mistaken. The chimera that was gripping him tightly wasn't even paying attention to him, but after getting hit by the spell, it immediately turned towards him. Harry's eyes widened in horror as the two heads started growling towards him. The chimera roared viciously and started spinning. It threw Harry away. Harry flew away in a tremendous speed like a ragdoll. In his flight, Harry noticed that he was in the trajectory of the cottage that was destroyed from the first spell fire with Naruto's Zetsu clones. He thought quickly and planned to cushion his landing. He summoned every ounce of his power and shouted, "Accio leaves!" The leaves of all the trees immediately fell and started gathering in front of the cottage in high speed. All of a sudden Harry collided with the cushion of leaves. But his momentum was too much for the leaves to handle, so he collided with the wall of the destroyed cottage and rolled away a few meters. He came to a halt. Harry slightly laughed and muttered, opening an eye, "I'm never doing that again." Immediately he lost his focus and his eye rolled out. He instantly lost consciousness. Footsteps could be heard coming towards the unconscious teen. It stopped near the passed-out boy. The person checked his pulse and sighed in relief. The person muttered, "I'm never going to do that either. No more gambling." But what a spectacular landing that was, he chuckled. "Anyway, Harry my boy, you did good. You did very good." He picked Harry up and vanished into thin air. What if Godlike Naruto was summoned in Hogwarts? End here and thanks for watching my video till the end.